Chapter 485. Marquis Jingon Fu. Discussion Hall. The atmosphere was a bit heavy. Hu Shouxin, Lu Shouyin, Long Wanda, Courier, Zhang Yinluo, Zhao Feihuang. The main members were all present. Everyone looked at each other and did not say anything. Lu Shouyin and Hu Shouxin both had worried expressions. Long Wanda looked left and right as if nothing had happened. His entire person exuded a sense of superiority that said, "Why did I, a flame guard from Lihua, come to Mingzhou?" Courier was currently playing with a bone knife that had a strong tribal aura. It was probably her tribe's weapon, the kind that had a special meaning. From time to time, she would let out a murderous laugh. Zhang Yinluo had a dumbfounded expression. She had come as the representative of the Zhongfu and, as a foreigner, from Lihua to listen in. She really did not know what had happened. But Miss Cow was Miss Cow. Even if she did not have a clue, she could still easily understand the atmosphere. Based on her understanding of Sun Lang, she was able to determine the general course of the matter. She looked at the people around her and then rolled her eyes at Sun Lang. "Did you cause some big trouble again?" Sun Lang snorted. "It was clearly my people's plan that achieved great success." Zhang Yinluo wanted to retort. "Miss Zhao, who had a policy of whatever decision Sun Lang made, I will resolutely protect it. Whatever Sun Lang's instructions, I will unswervingly follow it," snorted. "For some things, it is very difficult to rely on your brain to understand. Now, shut your mouth and obediently be a flower vase. I will explain what has happened recently." Zhang Yinluo was about to explode when Zhao Feihuang started talking. She held a stack of letters and leisurely walked to the center. That confident aura and capable temperament made Sun Lang feel that it was time to impart some ideas and techniques to the clothing store under the Marquis Fu. For example, small suits, white shirts, one-step skirts, black stockings and high heels, and so on. "I feel that the smart and far-sighted Ms. Zhao looks very cool in this outfit." "Yep, Yinluo can wear it too, but she'll definitely burst open the buttons, so forget it. She can just wear it for me to see in the future." While Sun Lang was letting his imagination run wild, Miss Zhao said, "Something has been going on in the Bright Plains these days. Although it is obscure, we have enough evidence to show that an invisible force is crazily connecting with Huqing as the center. It seems that they are planning a great conspiracy." Among the group, Lu Shouyin was the latest to join the group. Although his political attainments and gambling habits from years of immersing himself in officialdom had caused this prefecture overseer's loyalty to be rather high, loyalty did not mean blindness. It was because this level of loyalty was not built on some kind of fanaticism or trust. Simply put, his confidence in Sun Lang basically came from this person's illustrious reputation and legendary past, and he lacked a direct understanding of this former Grand Marshal's ability. Therefore, he was the most worried about the current situation. The current situation is a bit passive. Forgive me for being blunt, but putting Qi Guanyin under house arrest is not a good idea. Because of this, we are at a moral disadvantage. After all, he is a general of a province. If that group of bandits were to act up, it would be a mutiny. It would be really hard to control. Hu Shouxin also added, "I know. The initial plan was to beat them at their own game and spread the news to lure the Wang family into taking the bait. Now, it seems that they have taken the bait, but this fish is too big. Even if you, Sun Lang, are born with extraordinary strength, even if the fishing line is incomparably tough, even if we can still pull this big fish up, it is too big. It might even hurt the ship under our feet." As he spoke, he sighed and continued, "The Wang family is obviously up to no good. If she really instigates the army and acts irrationally, I'm afraid that she will hurt the innocent and implicate the people who have no power to resist. We are all soldiers. You know what happened to Ing Shao. An individual can always be unreasonably coerced by the collective will. It can even happen without any warning. When the army is gathered, it will be too easy for her to do something." Old Hu looked at Sun Lang and said calmly, "The common people might be affected. You have to be careful." Sun Lang took the letter from Miss Zhao and flipped through it. A strange expression appeared on his face. He muttered, "To be honest, I didn't expect the Wang family to play such a big game." From the invitation, she not only contacted Qi Guanyin subordinates, but also relied on the connections she had built up over the years when she was in charge of the general's residence to communicate with the noble families and even the civil officials all over Mingzhou. "She is crying and acting pitiful," Lu Shoyan sighed and said, "That's right. I have received many letters in the past 2 days. My old subordinates, my students, and the heads of noble families that I have a close personal relationship with are all asking if General Qi is really under house arrest. This makes me feel very awkward, and I don't know how to reply." He blinked and looked at Sun Lang anxiously. His heart was beating like a drum, and he even doubted whether Sun Lang's decision to put Qi Guanyin under house arrest was correct. However, with his current status and experience, it would be untactful of him to rashly question Sun Lang. Therefore, he signaled with his eyes to Hu Shouxin, "Hurry up and say something. After all, you are a veteran and have been through life and death with Sun Lang." Even if you pointed at his nose and scolded him, he wouldn't be angry. Old was a straightforward person. He understood the governor's thoughts. He didn't dislike this kind of necessary consideration and haggling. So he said directly, "How did your conversation with Qi Guanyin go these past 2 days? The only thing we can do now is to quickly reach a consensus with Qi Guanyin and end all of this in advance." Sun Lang frowned and said, "Qi can't even be beaten 3 times with a stick. He's like an old monk meditating all day long. I don't know what he's thinking. Sometimes he'll have a mysterious smile on his face. He looks very disgusting. When I talk to him and make him angry, he'll reply calmly without a trace of irritation. Mother asterisk her. I keep feeling that this guy is on the verge of enlightenment and death." Before Hu Shouxin and Lu Shoyan could express their opinions, the 3 girls present grasped the main point. Their voices rose an octave as they said in unison, "Qi." Sun Lang gave them a thumbs up. "I gave him a nickname when I made him angry. I took it from Qi in the heart. How about it? Isn't it gay? The only fly in the ointment is that when he heard me call him that, he just smiled faintly." The girls were not amused by this matter. They looked at each other. Suddenly, Zhao Feihuang pointed at Zhang Yinluo and shouted, "It's all your fault." Zhang Yinluo was confused. "What did I do?" Miss Zhao said angrily, "Those typical bitches in the pugilistic world who wear the cloak of a holy fairy still know how to give some benefits to those young heroes when they're coaxing them. Men need to eat meat. You've been baiting him for so long, but you don't even give him soup. Great, now I don't have to play anymore." Zhang Yinluo's face flushed red. He peeked at Sun Lang and retorted loudly, "What does it have to do with me?" Sun Lang wanted to deny these women's delicate and sensitive conjectures. After all, in this day and age, people who are passionately in love would often think too much. For example, if their boyfriend only lost contact for a few days due to some urgent matter, they would toss and turn in bed and let their imagination run wild. Then, they would send a message to ask if they were going to break up or something. It was really hard to understand the brain circuits of these people who were out of touch. But when he saw Yinluo's embarrassed and nervous eyes, he suddenly had an idea. He immediately thought of a very, very naughty operation. For example, if I pretend to show some degree of homosexual tendencies, will it make Yinluo more anxious and even make bolder actions in order to save me or something? But he did not expect that Yinluo's understanding of him had quietly reached a very deep level. Just as he was about to do something, the girl pointed at him and shouted, "What bad things are you thinking of now?" The originally solemn and dignified atmosphere in the meeting hall suddenly had a bit of a painful, sour smell. As people who had experienced it before, Hu Shouxin, who was good at singing a wife song before giving birth, and Lu Shoyan, who was, "I went to brothels to drink tea, surrounded concubines, and talked and laughed with famous prostitutes. But I knew I was a good boy, just a little old," were the typical representatives of honest people and dishonest people. Looking at all this, they did not show any expression of impatience. Hu Shouxin was happy to see this happen. Although he was a typical advocate of monogamy, considering Sun Lang's special situation, even he had to admit that the country owed this guy a lot of wives. Oh no, it owed him a lot of debts. If this debt could be repaid with a lot of wives, it would be too cheap. It was better to let Sun Lang be the king of pleasure than to let him be the sword saint that destroyed the country. So, flirt, flirt. When you don't know where you are, you probably won't have the strength to take revenge on the world. As for Lu Shoyan, his feelings were even more complicated. Some of it was nostalgia. He missed the romantic and elegant times of his youth. Some of it was envy. He was envious of the marshal's carefree and unrestrained attitude. And some of it was reverence. It was probably reverence that the marshal was really a man among men. He left leopard head Lin Daiyu and the reincarnated ghost hero Shue Baochai in the Jia mansion for 2 years. He did not even care about his close female friends back then. Instead, he boldly ran to the northern border of the empire to hook up with new people. This domineering attitude of not caring about the old people and only listening to the new people's laughter was really unparalleled in the world. It was hard for the men of the empire to look up to him. Sun Lang suddenly looked unhappy. I keep feeling that someone is laughing at me in my heart. Lu Shoyan was shocked. Then, he heard someone say, "It's me." He turned his head and saw Long Wanda, who had been silent all this time, speaking with a Maoist accent and disdain. So annoying. What's so good about women? Before he finished speaking, the 3 girls turned their heads and said sternly, "Shut up." Long Wanda was shocked. He turned his head and muttered in Slaller, "Why are they exactly the same as those 2 fierce women?" Zhang Yinluo had studied in Russia before. Now, Slaller was much more sensitive to her than hooded Chinese. She asked doubtfully, "What fierce women?" Sun Lang suddenly let out a hearty laugh. Okay, now we're talking about serious matters. Yinluo, don't interrupt. If there's anything personal, we can talk about it in private. Yinluo spat. Who wants to talk about personal things with you? Those 2 fierce women and so on. He did not pay attention to them. Sun Lang breathed a sigh of relief, and then glanced gloomily at Long Wanda. The latter's soul had been branded with a strong shadow by Sun Lang's tyrannical abuse a few years ago. At this moment, he didn't even have the courage to take the opportunity to threaten Sun Lang. He just looked away as if nothing had happened. However, Zhao Feihuang was looking at this foreign man, deep in thought. Sun Lang quickly changed the topic. Were we just now? Hu Shouxin came to the rescue. We're going to reach a consensus with Qi Guanyin. Sun Lang quickly nodded and then waved his hand. No, we can put the matter of Qi Guanyin aside. I'm more interested in the Wang family's motives. I just said that her actions were so big that even I did not expect it. Then the question is, what does she want to do? He raised 2 fingers. The army of the entire Mingzhou, and even the noble families from all over the country, and even the civil service system. She made a big deal of this matter, and everyone knows about it. Is she trying to pressure the public opinion? Everyone looked at each other. Sun Lang shook his head. It doesn't make sense. Others don't know, but doesn't she know the inside story and the situation? As long as we reach a consensus with Qi Guanyin, the advantage she painstakingly created will immediately become a disadvantage. It will become a cage that imprisons her and a weapon to kill her. As long as Qi Guanyin shows up and explains the situation, all the disadvantageous factors will be reversed and become our strength. It's impossible that the Wang family didn't think of this, but she still did it. Sun Lang's expression became a little solemn. This doesn't make sense. There must be a great conspiracy behind it. This is what I'm really concerned about. I want to know why the Wang family knows that this matter is very risky, but she still dares to make it bigger and bigger. She must have something to rely on. In other words, she has the confidence and bargaining chips to win. Even if Qi Guanyin shows up and reveals everything, it won't affect her from achieving her goal. Sun Lang looked at everyone and repeated, "So what does she want? What does she rely on? What plan does she have? Unknown foreign aid? An even crueler conspiracy? A new order from Tensei province?" Empress finally came up with a more effective action plan. No one knew. Courier maintained a murderous sneer. She said calmly, "In fact, the saber-toothed tiger doesn't need to know how many nests the ice fox has or what the escape plan is. It only needs to find its prey and then rush up with a speed and strength that the prey can't resist, biting its neck." This woman, who was born in the Icefield tribe in the north of the Lihue Kingdom, made a concise and comprehensive suggestion. So, we don't need to know the Wang family's motive. We only need to crush her with a force that she can't resist, so that she can't resist, escape, and respond. That's enough. Chapter 486. Courier's words were full of murderous intent and powerful. It sounded reasonable, too. Something like F2-8 when faced with a problem. Zhang Yinluo snorted. That's a suggestion that only a violent old woman like you could come up with. This is a battle. Strategies and strategies are needed. Courier retorted sarcastically. What do you know? This is military strategy. Zhang Yinluo rolled his eyes and said, I don't hear any strategy or wisdom in your suggestion. It seems like from the beginning to the end, you've been talking about using force to flatten the enemy. Courier shrugged. Oh, then what's your so-called wisdom? Zhang Yinluo waved his arms and said excitedly, Of course it's to defeat the strong as the weak. Of course it's to turn the tables in a desperate situation. Of course it's to destroy the strong enemy while talking and laughing. You've been reading too many books. Sun Lang smiled and said, The so-called art of war is to use one's strengths to attack the enemy's weaknesses. It's to bully the weak, to fight with numbers, to bully the weak, and to fight with a mob in an upright manner. All military strategies are based on playing to one's strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses to form an advantage. There's no such thing as defeating the strong as the weak. Think about it. If you're really so weak that you have nothing going for you, how can you win against the enemy? Zhang Yinluo was tongue-tied. Sun Lang said with a smile, For example, in the current situation, if we confront the enemy head-on, the Wang Consortium will definitely suffer a crushing defeat. Is she going to admit defeat? No. She wants a win, so she's racking her brains to avoid a head-on confrontation. Instead, she's using the advantage of her identity and information asymmetry to coax all the official forces in Mingzhou to serve her and be ordered around by her. This process is called playing to one's strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses. It's called military strategy. And if she wins, it won't be called defeating the strong as the weak. There's no such thing as defeating the strong as the weak in this world. There's only bullying the weak because she still has an advantage in a certain aspect. Let's talk about us. Sun Lang was still smiling as he explained. Our greatest advantage over the Wang Consortium is that we have a direct force that they can't resist. So, what we have to do is to make full use of this greatest advantage and even directly crush them. This is the most correct military strategy, not to throw away our greatest advantage and compete with the enemy in terms of intelligence and strategy. After all, I was once a marshal. How can I be so naive? After saying that, he spread out his hands. Otherwise, what do you think war is? It's not the elegance and style of strategizing from thousands of miles away. Instead, it's the ability to grasp all kinds of uncertain factors, gather all advantages, big and small, and add a little bit of luck. This is what it means to be a famous general in the world. Zhang Yinluo didn't know what to say for a while. He turned his head to the side angrily. You're the only one who can talk. Courier said coldly. Idiot, he's teaching you. You really don't know what's good for you. If you could understand some of what he said just now, your naivety, childishness, fantasy, and impracticality would be half cured. Sun Lang waved his hand and smiled faintly. It doesn't matter. She can do whatever she wants. My advantage of being able to win as long as I flatten them is her capital for being naive, childishness, fantasy, and impracticality. In Luo, if you don't understand now, there's no need to be anxious. You just need to grow at your own pace. Everyone looked at him in unison. Some were gentle, some were hostile, some were indifferent, and some were encouraging. For a moment, Yin Luo had mixed feelings. She glared at Sun Lang and stammered, You? Don't say such strange things in front of everyone. Even if you don't want your face, I still want mine. Actually, it's from the bottom of my heart, and it's not limited to you. Sun Lang looked at the people in the room. Young Lady Zhao, Courier, Hushou Xin, Lu Zhou, and Long Wanda. He smiled faintly. In my life, I know what it's like to be bound by the world. The environment, the atmosphere of society, the guidance of public opinion, and the mentality of following the crowd. There will always be forces you can't resist that will turn you into the person you used to hate the most. Therefore, beliefs are obliterated, courage is eliminated, and justice is hidden. Therefore, one has to submit to reality and bow to things one doesn't approve of. A person's strength is too shallow to change anything. Compared to beliefs and justice, there will always be things you cherish more that force you to make concessions. Sun Lang was silent for a moment. Then, he looked up and said with a smile, I used to be like this as well. Now, I have the power to say no to everything. However, there are many people in this world who don't have such power. For example, the strange doctor. He persisted and died. For example, Qin Hui. She compromised and was killed by me in the end. There's also Kong Zhongwu. He was very lucky. At the last moment, Chao Patao saved him. He looked at the people around him and said with a smile, I don't care about the others. To be honest, I haven't sorted out my own affairs. However, that doesn't stop me from wanting to become your strength so that you can make choices according to your own beliefs. Those who have regrets can make up for them. Those who don't will never have any regrets. Zhang Yinluo's eyes gleamed. His cheeks were slightly red. He fiddled with the corners of his clothes and said in a low voice, You can sometimes say something serious. Young Lady Zhao smiled and said, It's great that Sun Lang has something he wants to do. If you like it, go ahead and do it. We'll become your strength as well. Courier's eyes shone brightly. There's no doubt that you're shining with the light of a ruler. I wasn't mistaken. Come, let's take fire and Hutu for ourselves. Hey, don't say such things in front of me. Long Wanda retorted loudly. However, when he looked at Sun Lang, there was an inexplicable emotion in his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he snorted and said, It's been a few days since we met again after 2 years. Finally, I heard you say something sensible. Lu Shoyin was already past the age of being touched. He was more reserved and tactful. He cupped his fists and said, I'm willing to serve by your side, as expected of you. With just a few words, you've reminded me of your past glory, Hu Shoshin sighed and said, Back then, if he had thought of this back then, the incident on Great Desolate Mountain wouldn't have happened. Now that the saint has walked out of the temple, things should be much better than before. When Lu Zhou heard this, his expression stiffened slightly. Damn you, Hu Shoshin. Great Desolate Mountain? Great Desolate Mountain? How am I supposed to respond to that? Sun Lang smiled. Without the incident on Great Desolate Mountain, I wouldn't have understood some things as well. Old Hu, don't harbor any delusions. If we become a part of the people's strength, we'll have to stand against the others. Otherwise, whose cake do you think we're snatching? Whose order are we challenging? Who do you think we're declaring war on? He patted Old Hu's shoulder gently and said with a smile, This rebellion has to be fought. Lu Zhou's expression turned even more bitter. F***, don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. How am I supposed to respond to that? It was just that he didn't know when, but he didn't feel the same fear and trepidation as before when he heard Sun Lang's rebellious words like rebellion that occasionally came out of his mouth. Hu Shoshin slapped Sun Lang's hand away. He rolled his eyes and said, Cut the crap. Remember our agreement. Your impromptu speech was pretty good. It's a pity Qi Guanyin didn't hear it. Otherwise, Great General Qi might have been tempted. That's probably what's bothering him. Sun Lang suddenly came to a realization. He almost jumped up. F***. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. What a pity that Qi Guanyin didn't hear that speech. No, I can't let it go to waste. I want to repeat it in front of him, just like how I repeated the madam's hymn before she gave birth in front of Old Hu. Son of a B***TCH. Are you trying to stir up trouble? Zhang Yinluo rested his chin on his hand as he looked at the chaotic crowd. So, weren't we discussing the Wang family's intentions and plans earlier? Were we going to run over them directly? Sun Lang turned around and raised a finger. He said with a smile, Running over them also requires efficiency and methods. The most important thing is to weigh the pros and cons and recognize the current situation. Look at Chiang Kai-shek. Back then, he also thought that he could win as long as he used F2A. Wasn't he still beaten by the 16 words true combat formula? In Luo complained, "Why do I never understand the examples you give? It's right that you don't understand. If you do, I'll be shocked." Sun Lang waved his hand and said, "In general, the Wang family is too small a target. We can't lock onto her position for a while. Even if we run over them, we don't know where to go. It's easy to alert her. What's more, she'll beat us at our own game and make us confused. So at this time, it's not good to take the initiative to attack. After all, since she thought of this, she'll definitely think that we'll use the decapitation tactic." In Luo curled his lips and said, "What's the difference between that and being beaten? You don't understand the charm of the tower defense style at all." Sun Lang smiled. "This is called biding our time. After all, in the art of battle formations, we'll still be at a disadvantage if we react to every move as we see fit. We'll fall into the enemy's rhythm. We can't be led by the nose by the Wang family. In addition to ensuring an absolute advantage in force, we have to expand another advantage." After saying that, he walked towards the door. In Luo shouted, "Where are you going?" Sun Lang turned around and winked at In Luo. "To find Chi-Chi, of course. Hey, I can't help it. I'll tease In Luo like this for the time being. What if it works?" Miss Cow was startled by this wink and jumped up. I'll go to." After saying that, she hurriedly ran out after Sun Lang's figure. Ms. Zhao looked at her back with a sense of superiority in intelligence and a little frustration. Zhao Fei Huang, who was born beautiful, smart, elegant, noble, and considerate, was obviously much better than this cow spirit, but she was actually suppressed by her inexplicable natural physique. Courier also sighed. She can't really think that Sun Lang likes men, right? After being together for so long, doesn't she know how much Sun Lang likes breasts? Out of the corner of Miss Zhao's eyes, she glanced at the barbaric woman's chest, which was puffed up as if nothing had happened. The majestic size brought about by the racial advantage and natural beauty was obviously something that Miss Zhao, who was a normal young lady from an Eastern family, could not compare with. At this time, although Zhao Fei Huang was smiling, she was gritting her teeth in her heart. This barbaric woman is doing it on purpose. She's obviously deliberately raising her breast for me to see. Lu Shouyin and Hu Shouxin sat at the side. Although the prefecture overseer did not personally experience it and verify it, judging from the comments of the court officials in the past, Hu Shouxin should be very tight-lipped. Therefore, although there were some things that Lu Shouyin did not dare to mention to Sun Lang, he could ask old Hu in private. He looked at the people around him and condensed his voice into a thread with his inner power. He whispered, "General Hu, about rebellion." Hu Shouxin already knew what Lu Shouyin wanted to ask. He smiled faintly and said, "It doesn't matter if it's a rebellion, overturning the court, or challenging the imperial power. As long as Sun Lang fulfills his promise with me, I'll stand on the side of the people. They are the most important." Lu Shouyin frowned slightly. "The people are the most important thing, and the country is the second most important thing." The saint only said it casually and used it when needed. How can you take it seriously? Hu Shouxin said indifferently, "I've read the history books as well, and I know about the past. Who under the heavens has suffered the most? It's the common people who work hard to earn a living. They have to pay taxes, be forced by the government, be oppressed by landlords, and be attacked by ruffians. When there's a famine or a disaster, they have to sell their children, and their entire families starve to death in ditches. Moreover, this is a time of peace and prosperity. When there's a change of dynasty or a rebellion that shakes the world, who will suffer the most? The common people are the first to bear the brunt of it. Whether it's a disaster, a prosperous time, or a turmoil, their lives are the most worthless regardless of whether the world rises or falls." He glanced at Lu Shouyin. Sun Lang knows about their suffering. In fact, Sun Lang knows the root of all this. Sun Lang has the ability to change all this. As long as he doesn't let the common people suffer, I'll follow him and seek justice for him. If he tells me directly that he wants to build a new dynasty where the common people can live a better life, as long as he promises me, as long as he agrees, I don't mind risking my life to rebel with him. Lu Shoshin did not expect the thick-browed and big-eyed Hu Shoshin to have such rebellious thoughts. He was so shocked that he was speechless. Are you scared? Hu Shoshin smiled and patted him on the shoulder. There's something even scarier. A few years ago, during the war, Sun Lang was talking nonsense when he was drunk. This guy really dared to say anything. What communism? What great unification of the world? What exploitation? What revolution? And what if Astra's king said actually made sense? Even I almost believed it. He flashed his shining teeth and a kind smile as he concluded, so, don't be afraid. I think you'll be there soon. Meanwhile, Sun Lang skipped to the courtyard where Qi Guanyin was staying. The surroundings were heavily guarded, and Sun Lang had set up the Herring Immortal slaying formation when he was free. Even if Great General Qi could break through Sun Lang's confinement and escape, even if he was stained with the soup, Sun Lang would have a way to find him even if he fled to the ends of the earth. He waved his hand to signal the guards to make way and said loudly, Qi, did you miss me? Chapter 487. Sun Lang shouted twice, but no one answered. In Luo, who had caught up, exclaimed in shock, he ran away? The guard in charge of keeping watch immediately said, Don't worry, Ms. Zhang. Eldest Miss has given strict orders that we must take good care of the Great General's safety. In the Great General's quarters, the windows are always open. We will keep watch every 15 minutes. If there are any strange movements, we will be the first to discover it. Sun Lang continued. Moreover, there is the great immortal execution array that I personally set up. How could he run away? Zhang Yinluo said disdainfully, What great immortal execution array? The canned herring. It's actually just that. If you can endure the stench and disgust, it's actually nothing much. Don't think too highly of it. Sun Lang and that guard leader exchanged a meaningful glance, snorted twice, and laughed proudly. You only know one thing and don't know the other. Look at what that is. Zhang Yinluo looked in the direction that Sun Lang was pointing and saw that there were some bulging bags hanging on the trees and even the roof beams around the courtyard. She faintly had a bad feeling. What is that? Sun Lang snorted twice and laughed. Thinking of that Xiao Long knew, before her martial arts were perfected, she had to rely on summoned beasts to fight in groups. When she encountered difficult opponents or many enemies, she would call a swarm of JBs to stab people. Yinluo asked in astonishment, These are bees? Sun Lang and that guard leader exchanged a glance again and laughed. Of course not. Inside these are all kinds of flies, flying insects, and the like that the good friends of the Marquis of Jing'an's manor caught overnight. This is the continuous technique of the Great Immortal Execution Array. After the Herring Immortal Execution Array, it is the 100-battle Heavenly Insect Immortal Execution Array. If this Qi Guanyin dares to escape, as long as he is drenched in canned herring, and then he releases these summoned beasts. Zhang Yinluo suddenly shivered, feeling goosebumps all over her body. Sun Lang pulled her and continued to introduce. Let me tell you more about the immortal trapping array. Miss Cow shrieked, Shut up. I don't want to listen. Can't you act like an expert? You're always doing these things. Sun Lang laughed and said, That's so boring. I'm always pulling a long face, fighting here and there, and acting tough whenever I meet people. I've already transcended that realm. He pointed inside and explained to the girl, Think about it. Using Qi Guanyin as an example, we are both martial arts masters. If we were to fight for real, I would definitely beat him into a pulp. And then? What was the point? How boring. I've already passed the age where I feel a sense of accomplishment after defeating a strong enemy. Because I've won too many battles in my life, there aren't many victories that can make me happy. That's right, that's it, happy. The key is pleasure. Sun Lang spread out his hands and sighed. Compared to using martial arts to defeat Qi Guanyin, there is nothing more enjoyable than using a more enjoyable method to defeat him. Then, seeing him fly into a rage but not being able to kill me, these two pleasures added together is undoubtedly an even greater pleasure. Everyone, you're kidding. Zhang Yinluo stomped his feet and said, "For you to say such words, your mind is undoubtedly twisted beyond recognition." Sun Lang's face immediately changed. He reached out and hooked Yinluo's chin and said affectionately, "Actually, Yinluo, you know in your heart that in this world, only your breasts, well, only you can bring me far more pleasure than throwing 1,000 cans of herring. How about it? In order to save the world from being poisoned by canned herring, do you want to sacrifice yourself to appease my twisted mind?" This guy's face changed too quickly, and his eyes were deep and his expression was on point. It really looked like something like this, so much so that Yinluo inadvertently believed it. The girl looked at Sun Lang's face that was close to hers, and her cheeks slowly turned red. Her heart also started to beat faster. She pursed her lips, and her pretty lips were pink and tender. Her eyes gradually became blurred, and she very powerlessly resisted. "You want to?" At this moment, a chuckle came from inside. "Distinguished guest, why don't you come in?" These words were like a bucket of snow water poured on Yinluo's head, immediately grabbing her out of this ambiguous and silly atmosphere. With a bang, her face became even redder. She pushed Sun Lang hard and screamed, "Lecher, if it weren't for me, the world would be poisoned by canned herring. Then it would be poisoned." After that, she walked into the courtyard angrily. The guard leader, who had been hiding at the side, secretly wiped his cold sweat and stuck out his tongue. Good heavens, fortunately, General Qi spoke. Otherwise, they would have kissed just now. That was so close. If Ms. Zhang knew that Mr. Sun and Ms. Zhang kissed here, and I just watched and did nothing, then I would be done for. He stole a glance at Sun Lang. Sure enough, Mr. Sun was stunned for a moment, and then his eyes were full of murderous intent. He gloomily stared at the courtyard, and then sneered twice. "Qi Guanyin, this bastard. Damn it, he ruined my good thing. He definitely did it on purpose. F***CK. He was thinking about how to teach this forgiving man a lesson when he saw Yinluo in front of him stop and turn around. Hey, why aren't you following me? Why are you standing there like a fool?" Sun Lang smiled and strode forward, rubbing against the girl's body. "Yinluo, so disgusting, stay away from me." The two of them rubbed against each other until they reached Qi Guanyin's room. Sun Lang kicked open the door and shouted, Qi, I brought my red. Yen, Ji, come to see you." Zhang Yinluo angrily said, "Shameless. Who's your soulmate?" Sun Lang acted as if he didn't hear anything. He chuckled and held Yinluo's hand, swaying it back and forth in front of Qi Guanyin's eyes. "Ah, look, this is my Yinluo. She is virtuous and gentle. She is good at housework. She is dignified. She is good at housekeeping. Ah, what a beautiful woman." Yinluo felt a little nauseous when he heard this. He could actually say such shameful words without any hesitation. This guy's skin was really thick enough. It made people feel a little embarrassed when they heard it. While she was giggling inexplicably, she heard Sun Lang holding her hand with one hand and covering his heart with the other. Under Qi Guanyin's gentle gaze, he stood on his tiptoes, raised his head, and sighed. The most important thing is that she has no relationship with the heavenly policy mansion at all. That's amazing. Great General Qi's gentle and calm demeanor instantly shattered without a trace. He said helplessly, "Marshal, I didn't expect you to hold grudges. But the relationship between a man and a woman should be sincere and honest, like water flowing naturally. It shouldn't be mischievous and use deceit to express your feelings. That's too undignified." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "May I ask if you were imparting some advice and insights on relationships to me from the standpoint of a winner in life?" Qi Guanyin choked for a moment and said seriously, "I am a complete loser in the field of love, but there is nothing wrong with the art of war. The one who is wrong is the general who used the wrong art of war. Although I have encountered this kind of situation, it doesn't mean that my experience and insights are wrong." That's right. Before Sun Lang could say anything, Yin Luo chimed in. This guy's always jumping up and down. He doesn't even look proper. I don't even know if what he said is true or if he's just teasing me. General Qi is right. Things like relationships should be treated seriously. They should be in front of flowers and under the moon. They should pledge their undying love. I almost forgot that this guy was originally a bit of a hipster. He even studied in the West. He probably read too many operas and romance novels and actually fell in love with foreign devils. Are you kidding me? Do you want me to send flowers and go on a date to see a movie? I'm not familiar with this kind of stuff. Bah, it's not that I'm not familiar with it. It's just that I've been here for 8 years and have forgotten everything about the past. The only technique I still remember is to put a bottle of 1982 Nutri Express on the roof of the car. While Sun Lang was thinking, Qi Guanyin heard Zhang Yinluo's words, and his expression changed. He stood up and said with a smile, Miss Zhang, you're right. Relationships. Yinluo didn't say anything and slipped behind Sun Lang. He stuck his head out from the side and looked at Qi Guanyin with a bit of vigilance. General, you can just stand there and talk. Qi Guanyin was puzzled. What's wrong? Yinluo said in a low, muffled voice. Aren't you and Sun Lang enemies now? If you suddenly make trouble and capture me to threaten him, won't I be mocked by him for at least a month? General Qi was startled, but he didn't get angry. Instead, he showed a gentle smile. I see. You're a good girl. Marshal, you must cherish such a girl. Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, Don't use the tone of an experienced person to lecture me. In my eyes, your level has already fallen to a level lower than mine. Shameful, shameful. Obviously, after witnessing Qi Guanyin's family drama, Sun Lang immediately had a great sense of superiority towards the general. He had a feeling of, let's see what a disloyal dog like you can be proud of. Qi Guanyin laughed bitterly. What business do the two of you have visiting me for? Sun Lang looked at him a few times. To be honest, your current state is no different from having a dead heart. You actually don't get angry when that matter is brought up. At most, you just smile bitterly. Have you accepted your fate? General Qi was silent for a moment, then slowly said, All these years, I've been living in a dilemma. I went against my father's teachings and became the person I used to hate the most. I obtained my current position by currying favor with the Tensei province. I'm a lackey of the Tensei province, a marionette of the Empress. These years, I've sunk deeper and deeper, and I've become more and more miserable and lost. I don't know if it's worth it for me to do all this, and why. He sighed and said, A few days ago, I bumped in my wife's secret plot with someone else. She's so vicious. I never would have thought that she would be able to casually come up with such a vicious plan, even if it was enough to ruin her husband's reputation and cause him to be doomed eternally. In fact, I already knew that she was from the Tensei province, but that night, I still couldn't control my anger and decided to strike. That halberd strike was merciless. If the marshal hadn't stopped me, I'm afraid that I would have cut her in half. Yes, I wanted to kill her. I really did want to kill her. He recalled everything that happened that night, and his hands trembled slightly. He didn't know whether it was from anger or lingering fear. Qi Guanyin closed his eyes and repeated, How could she be like this? How could she be like this? He shook his head and looked at Sun Lang. After I bumped in her plot, I was so angry that I didn't know what to do. I felt that all the sacrifices I've made all these years were a big joke. I felt that I was incomparably ridiculous because I didn't know what my sacrifices and compromises were in exchange for, Sun Lang said faintly. And then, Qi Guanyin repeated, and then laughed. And then I was locked up here. Actually, it wasn't a bad thing because I could calm down and think about my true thoughts, think about my life, and think about what I want. Sun Lang changed his position and tilted his head. What did you think of? Just thinking about the things between my wife and me. Qi Guanyin smiled. I thought about our life, the more than 10 years of love between husband and wife. From the time we met to the time we got married, I rose from a lowly lieutenant to a general in charge of the military affairs of a province. No matter the position, we always supported each other along the way. We went through thick and thin together. Now it seems that this so-called love is more like a huge lie. He lowered his head and laughed self-deprecatingly. She slept by my pillow for more than 10 years. I thought that in this life, we were going to be together for the rest of our lives. I once vowed to love her, and I always thought that marrying her was the luckiest thing in my life. But the scary thing is, I don't seem to know what she's thinking in her heart. His tone was calm, but it contained a great deal of grief. Sun Lang had already experienced greater pain and sorrow, and because of his race, he didn't have any reaction to this kind of sad love story, so he didn't think much of it. However, Yin Luo, who yearned for romantic love, felt a great impact on her soul. Such a person probably couldn't resist Xiongyao's drama at all. She reached out and grabbed Sun Lang's clothes. Her nose twitched, and tears almost fell. She said sadly, "General Qi, this kind of woman isn't worth your sadness." Qi Guanyin looked at her and smiled gratefully. Then he said softly, "If only it were that easy." Sigh. He sighed again, looked at Sun Lang, and said seriously, "Miss Zhang's expression of sympathy and reluctance, I'm afraid it's not just because of what I said just now. Right? My wife, what did she do?" Sun Lang nodded. "To put it simply, she said that we kidnapped you, so she gathered your subordinates and the important people in Mingzhou. She's going to Mingzhou soon to reason with us and rescue you. Chi-Chi, are you happy?" Qi Guanyin's expression changed slightly. He understood the cause and effect of this matter. He was silent for a moment and sighed. "I know. Maybe it's time to put an end to this." Chapter 488. Qi Guanyin sighed. "I know. Maybe it's time to put an end to this." Sun Lang nodded. Yes. Your wife is really up to no good. What's she trying to do by bringing so many people here? Your generals, your soldiers, and all the important people in Mingzhou were all called here by her. It's too scary. Does she want to let everyone in Mingzhou know that you've been cheated on in broad daylight?" Qi Guanyin wanted to explain that he hadn't been cheated on, only betrayed. However, when he thought about it, there wasn't much of a difference between the two. Furthermore, based on his experience in the past 2 days, as long as he argued with the marshal about this kind of thing, the marshal would happily change the topic all the way from the Eastern Sea to the Southern Sky Gate, and then give him a huge mental blow. He laughed bitterly and said in a low voice, "This matter is a bit strange. For her to receive the news so quickly, I'm afraid that the marshal has added fuel to the fire. Could it be that you released the news that I was murdered?" Sun Lang said indifferently, "I'm not stupid, and neither is your wife." "That means she didn't." Qi Guanyin frowned. "Then how dare she do this? Even if there's a misunderstanding between the two sides, and my subordinates are worried about my safety, so much so that they've sent their soldiers to the city gates. As long as I show up and stop them, all her schemes will be meaningless. What's she trying to do?" Sun Lang waved his hand. "I don't know, and we don't need to know. Since you've thought it through, let's make a trip there immediately. Go find a subordinate you trust, and order him to secretly spread the news and find out where the Wang family is. We'll capture her in one fell swoop." Qi Guanyin pondered for a moment and shook his head. "No, it's too easy to alert the enemy. Since she's done something like this, she's probably already made arrangements and won't give us the chance." Sun Lang glanced at him as if nothing had happened and said indifferently, "Then what do you think?" Qi Guanyin said with a calm expression, "Stop the enemy with inaction and wait for the enemy with ease. When the two sides are facing each other, we are the righteous army and have an unparalleled advantage on the battlefield. It can be said that victory is within our grasp. Under such circumstances, we must not be greedy and advance prematurely. We must take each step carefully and make use of our strengths and avoid our weaknesses." Zhang Yinluo's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He glanced at Sun Lang. Qi Guanyin's opinion was exactly the same as Sun Lang's. Was it true that the thought processes of famous generals were all similar? However, Sun Lang's expression actually changed. He coldly said, "Your wife knows you very well. She also knows how to use troops. How do you know that you're using troops in an open and above-board manner right now, and that you're not in her calculations? How do you know that what you're waiting for isn't her well-arranged scheme?" Qi Guanyin continued, "Whether we strike first or strike later, both of these actions carry risks. We could fall into her trap either way. In a lowly general's opinion, it's better to strike later. If it's the latter, she will appear no matter what. This is the best opportunity for us to face her head on. Besides, the general said calmly, even if she has arranged some shocking scheme, as long as you are in the middle, you can cut it all down. The flattery of the Jinzhou Grand General, even if it was on the emperor, would make the emperor very happy. But Sun Lang did not buy it. He looked Qi Guanyin up and down, a cold smile appearing on his face. You can even say such words. What do you want? The general looked at Sun Lang and bowed deeply. Please allow a lowly general to keep me in suspense. The marshal will know when the time comes. I can guarantee that you will get what you want no matter what. Sun Lang's expression turned cold. Know when the time comes? Qi Guanyin, everyone has their own thoughts. I don't know what you're thinking. If you don't want to say it, I can't do anything about it. However, many tragedies in the world do not have to happen. Too many deaths and departures are caused by the self-righteousness of the people involved. He looked deeply at Qi Guanyin and said, I've told you before, don't say that I didn't warn you. Now you're holding back. When the time comes, it will be too late to cry. Qi Guanyin said calmly, Thank you for your reminder, Marshal. A lowly general already knows. However, in my life, I have experienced ups and downs in the official circle. When I do things according to my heart, I always run into obstacles and am unhappy. When I do things against my heart, I have a meteoric rise, but I am not happy. I have to hold my head high for once, right? Sun Lang said indifferently, Qi Guanyin, you are a smart person. There are some things that you don't need to say too clearly. The reason why I have the patience to waste time with you here, you know very well in your heart. I don't mind visiting your cottage 3 times, and I also don't mind spending time to watch you act out your bitter love drama. But my patience is actually limited. If you continue to be so shameless, don't blame me for suppressing my pity for your talent and sending you to paradise. Qi Guanyin's expression did not change. He lowered his head and said, I am not virtuous or talented. I have suffered losses in my private actions. I'm very grateful that Marshal thinks highly of me. If I had met Marshal a few years ago, then Sun Lang grabbed him by the collar and said coldly, F***CKU Qi Guanyin. You're a hero. You're a man made of iron. But there's always something you can't let go of. In this world, there are always some people and some things that can make you worry, that can make you cry the most painfully. He said in a low voice, Don't force me to this step. I am indeed not the same as before. Sun Lang reached out and pushed. Qi Guanyin staggered and fell back. He turned around and did not look at the general anymore. He said coldly, Let's go. Zhang Yinluo made an O sound, but did not immediately move. She looked at Qi Guanyin with some doubt and surprise in her eyes, as if she had discovered something. Qi Guanyin fell on the bed. He raised his head and smiled at her. Miss Zhang, you must cherish this. Yinluo was a virgin after all, and she was a little shy by nature. When others mentioned her emotional problems, she would become extremely embarrassed. The questions and guesses in her mind were immediately thrown out of the window. She clasped her hands in a fluster, then turned around and ran away. Qi Guanyin was left alone. He sat by the bed and leaned against the headboard. He looked at the beam and sighed silently. He said softly, You must cherish this. Sun Lang walked out of the courtyard angrily. He turned around and complained, Son of a bitch, this bastard is a sissy. F***CK. Why is he taking so long to complete this recruitment mission? Zhang Yinluo quickly followed. Although she did not know what a personal recruitment mission was, she could still guess Sun Lang's meaning. She shook her head and said, He is a great general of a province. If he sincerely pledges allegiance to you, then the military power of the empire's northern border will fall into your hands. Next to Ming province is Song province, and Song province is General Zhao's territory. Isn't that also your territory? When the time comes, Song and Ming provinces will be connected. The north will be connected to Lihua, and the south will be facing the imperial capital. Even I can see the benefits. She reached out and patted Sun Lang's back. So, the road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. You're going to take advantage of such a big advantage. It's okay to work a little harder. Sun Lang's anger subsided, but his face was still serious. If it weren't for the fact that I have to subdue Qi Guanyin to take over Ming province in the most complete peace, why would I waste my time with him here? It's just that I haven't been able to see through his thoughts, which makes me feel uneasy. I don't know what he's thinking, and I can't figure out what he wants to do. In-law's heart skipped a beat, and the doubt she had just now surged into her mind. Yes, General Qi's behavior is really too strange. He seems to still have feelings for his wife, but he is still very angry and annoyed by the Wang family's betrayal. I really can't figure out what he wants to do. Sun Lang looked at her in surprise. You actually saw through it. Inluo said loudly. What do you mean I actually saw through it? No matter what, I'm still a girl. My thoughts in this aspect are also more delicate and sensitive than yours. Why can't I see through it? Sun Lang said with a smile. Okay, delicate and sensitive emotional expert Miss Zhang. Why don't you analyze Qi Guanyin's psychological activities and emotional state? The cow lady snorted a few times and raised a finger. Analyzing this matter is actually very simple. Under the same circumstances, first establish a standard human reaction, then compare it with General Qi's reaction to see what's different. Then, carry out a further in-depth analysis. Sun Lang clicked his tongue and said, Oh, that's really something. Inluo made a face and continued. The relationship between General Qi and the Wang family is intricate and complicated, but if you sort it out, there are no more than 3 stages. He said that he actually already knew that the Wang family was from Tensei province, and he was already mentally prepared. However, a few days ago, he heard with his own ears that the Wang family had arranged a vicious plot against him, and only then did he feel the unforgettable anger and killing intent. In other words, although he knew that his wife was a spy from Tensei province, he still tolerated and liked her. So, she rolled her eyes and pointed at Sun Lang with a smile. Let's use you as an example. Let's say that there's a woman. At first, you thought that she had bad intentions and were very guarded against her, but gradually, you fell in love with her, but later, she saw that Sun Lang's expression suddenly changed, and she suddenly realized and regretted it. She said the wrong thing. Empress Tensei. Inluo didn't know much about Sun Lang's past. She only heard him talk about it sporadically, like small pieces of a puzzle. Although they were scattered, when pieced together, she could always guess the truth. However, that was only the truth of her guess. Sun Lang had never completely told her the cause and effect of the matter and the real picture. Sun Lang had said more than once that as long as she wanted to know, he would tell her everything. But Inluo had never opened her mouth to ask, because she knew that although Sun Lang had always been smiling mischievously and acted as if nothing was forbidden, his self-esteem was actually very strong. His martial arts were strong, his military achievements were great, and he was once an extremely high official. He was already a first-class person in the world. How could he keep talking about the sad things of the past to ask for pity? Moreover, that was the knot and pain in his heart. When he occasionally mentioned it, the ferocious bloody light that flashed in his eyes represented the hatred that he had never let go. And all of this probably had something to do with a woman whose name was famous all over the world. Empress Tensei, the most dazzling name among the outstanding women in the world, the pride of the imperial family. Between this woman and Sun Lang, there was probably a story that couldn't be told for 3 days and 3 nights, an ill-fated relationship. Because when Sun Lang talked about her, there was no smile on his face, and his eyes were cold. Compared to when he talked about godly Dr. Liu, Zhao Yunlong, and even other people, his expression was completely different. It was just that the past with Empress Tensei was probably the thing that Sun Lang was most unwilling to talk about. Inluo also didn't have much of an idea about this matter, so after she spoke, she noticed the change in Sun Lang's expression. Only then did she suddenly realize that she had probably touched on Sun Lang's sore spot. She looked at Sun Lang's face that suddenly had a smile on it, and suddenly panicked. She didn't know what to do and said, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm sorry, Sun Lang expressionlessly turned around as if he wanted to leave. The girl's heart suddenly ached. Without thinking, she immediately threw herself at Sun Lang and hugged him from behind. She cried, "It's my fault. Don't be silent. You can scold me a little." Sun Lang's voice was very calm. "Let go of me." In-law's heart trembled, but she still braced herself and said, "I won't let go." Then Sun Lang was silent and didn't say a word. The two maintained this posture. The girl hugged the man from behind and didn't move at all. Sun Lang still didn't say anything. In Luo only hugged Sun Lang's body tightly. She hugged him tightly, as if she was afraid that he would forcefully break free in the next instant and leave without looking back. If something like that happened, she wouldn't know what she should do. Just like at this moment, she also didn't know what she should say. So, she could only hug and hug like this. After an unknown period of time, she suddenly heard Sun Lang let out a sigh towards the sky. "Ah, so cool." In Luo didn't react for a moment. "Ah, that's good." Let out a king's praise. In Luo blinked and suddenly realized something. Her face flushed red, and she immediately jumped back 2 steps. She said in a sharp voice, "Are you playing with me?" Sun Lang's heart thumped, but he was a person who had been through storms and waves. How fast was his reaction? He immediately turned back with an elegant and indifferent smile and reached out to knock the girl's forehead. "We're even." Looking at his calm smile with a trace of sadness, In-law's heart beat faster. Her aggressive appearance relaxed. She bowed her head and said, "I'm sorry." "Phew, I passed." Heaving a sigh of relief in his heart, Sun Lang stretched out his hand and patted her head. In Luo usually hated this kind of behavior, then smiled and said, "It's all right, I've already thought it through. This is just a debt, and it has nothing to do with men and women. She and I are irreconcilable enemies, and there has to be an end to it. She took away my originally peaceful life and also took away my 2 hopes. I will pay her back for everything." In Luo was still in shock. She snorted and whispered, "You are an exception, it doesn't count." The wound that Empress left in your heart is far greater than the wound that Wang left in General Qi's heart. Moreover, you also said that there is no love between the 2 of you, so it doesn't count. After all, General Qi was still in love with Madame Wang. If feelings were mixed into the affairs of this world, who could say for sure what would happen? She glanced at Sun Lang and said in her heart, "Take me for example. If you hurt me badly and break my heart, I definitely won't kill you. I'll let you live and then think of a way to make you miss me every day. You'll think of me for the rest of your life. You'll regret it, but you'll never see me again. Only then will I be able to vent my anger." Suddenly, a light flashed through her mind. She seemed to have grasped something. But at this time, Sun Lang said with a smile, "What are you thinking about now?" Looking at this hateful face, In Luo thought of what she had just said in her heart. In Luo blushed and said loudly, "I didn't think of anything. That was just an assumption." "What assumption?" "Nothing." Chapter 489. The moon was high in the sky, and the night sky was lonely. In the heavily guarded military tent, Wang Shi rubbed her sore wrists. Hearing the faint voices outside the tent, she sighed almost imperceptibly. In the past 2 days, she had worked hard to play her role and weaved a shocking lie. She used Qi Guanyan's prestige and reputation in Mingzhou to claim that the great general had been detained by the governor. She also used her status as the great general's wife to appeal for the necessary help from all walks of life in Mingzhou to save her husband. But other than the person involved, no one knew that this was actually a huge lie. She was dancing on a tightrope, lying and using others to achieve her own goals. The slightest carelessness would consign her to eternal damnation. But she had no other choice. This was what she had to do. She put down her pen and rubbed her tender hands together a few times. After they were warm, she pressed them against her face, the heat relieving her fatigue. In order to maintain this lie, she had been plotting and scheming for the past 2 days. Dealing with this kind of major event was far more tiring than managing the internal affairs of the general's residence. Wang Shi rested for a while, then looked around vigilantly. After confirming that no one was watching, She quietly took out a letter from under the pile of books on the table. She had caused such a huge commotion that Ming Zhou would definitely notice. Putting aside Qi Guanyin, Sun Lang's martial arts were superb, and he even had the help of the Blazing Angel. Faced with this kind of situation, a decapitation operation seemed to be the best choice. So she had been hiding her tracks, deliberately setting up misdirection formations, and setting up many traps to ensure that she would not be disturbed before the big show began. But hiding her tracks and being protected by the army also meant that she was isolated. She could no longer easily communicate with the Blazing Angel these past 2 days. She could only communicate through letters, and the frequency of communication could not be too high to avoid being noticed. Yes, she was now being protected by Qi Guanyin subordinates, but it was hard to say whether more protection or more surveillance. After all, Wang Rulong, Lu Nan, Chun Desheng, and the others were the great general's trusted subordinates. Not only were they loyal and devoted, but they were also resourceful. They were not people who could be easily fooled. Thinking of this, Wang Shi could not help but smile bitterly. So tired, she sighed softly, tiredness and confusion in her eyes. All of Mingzhou, those who doubted her, those who hated her, those who wanted to kill her, those who used her, and those who were used by her. There was no one she could trust, no one she could rely on. Why am I doing this? She muttered to herself before opening the letter in her hand. The letter was written by the Blazing Angel. His handwriting was so sharp that it was cold and unkind. The content was nothing more than a platitude. First, he reported on the situation in Bright Province. Then he offered encouragement, followed by a warning, and finally an inquiry. The protection of the army also separated her from the Blazing Angel, causing the Blazing Angel to be unable to maintain surveillance and even control over her like before. This should have made the other party feel irritated and uneasy. When something was out of control, it meant that there would be variables and accidents. She understood the Blazing Angel. For that cold-blooded killing machine, variables and accidents were the things it loathed the most. It was like a machine from the kingdom of Lihua, precise and fatal. It hated mistakes, accidents, and anything that was out of its calculations. For example, the biggest variable in this operation was a man named Sun Lang. His appearance had almost disrupted all the arrangements and plans, causing the difficulty of the operation to increase by several levels. In the past few days, she could often hear the Blazing Angel complaining that the Tensei province's intelligence was wrong. Such a powerful expert had suddenly appeared in Mingzhou, and it was obvious that he was related to the northern faction. How could the Tensei province not know anything about this? Wang Shi smiled when she thought of this. So it was just a machine without a heart, not like a human. It did not know that accidents and variables were sometimes the key to breaking out of a situation. Wang Shi's lips curled up, and her mood improved a little. However, this rare good mood was immediately destroyed because she saw something she did not want to see. Your brother is fine, but he is depressed. I'm afraid that he can't accept the truth. You and Qi Guanyin spoil him so much that he doesn't realize how cruel the world is. However, if you can complete this mission beautifully, you can still spoil him like before. As long as you can make our master happy, your brother can naturally continue to be a carefree playboy. When the army arrives in Ming Province, you will see him and say goodbye to him. He will bring your good news and the account books that record many things in Ming Province's officialdom to the capital to meet our master. With our master taking care of your brother, you won't have any worries. You can focus on working for our master. These plain words undoubtedly hid a malicious threat and hint. Wang Shi took a deep breath. She felt her hands trembling and her heart beating very fast. Drops of tears splashed onto the letter. She subconsciously crumpled the letter into a ball and held it tightly. She muttered, "Brother." At this moment, a voice came from outside the tent. "Madam, a lowly general, Wang Rulong, requests to see you." Wang Shi's body trembled. She stuffed the crumpled letter into her lapel as fast as she could. Then, she took a deep breath and calmly said, "General Wang, please come in." "A lowly general, please excuse me." The tent door was opened, and a heroic general in armor walked in. He first saluted with his hands folded. Then, he looked up and saw the tears on Wang Shi's face. He said in surprise, "Madam?" Wang Shi hurriedly wiped her face with the back of her hand. She forced a smile and said, "I'm a woman. I miss my husband so much that I'm crying. I'm embarrassed in front of you." Wang Rulong bowed and said, "I wouldn't dare. Madam and the great general are deeply in love. A lowly general only has respect for you. There's no need to worry, madam. The great general's martial arts are profound, and Ming Province's magistrate, Lu Shoyin, is famous for being a nice guy. Even if there's a conflict between them and a misunderstanding that leads to discord, it's not something that can't be salvaged. Lu Mingzhou is a modest gentleman. He always leaves some leeway in his actions." Wang Shi sighed and said, "I hope so." Wang Rulong continued to say, "There's one more thing I want you to know, madam. The carrier pigeons and mounted scouts that were sent out during the day have returned. It's all thanks to your connections that we've reached a preliminary consensus and an alliance." Everyone was shocked when they heard about this. They all expressed their willingness to help you and demand an explanation from Magistrate Lu and Hu Shoshin so that the great general can be saved. He smiled and said, "The great general's kindness has finally paid off. Now, everyone in Ming Province is responding to his kindness. As the saying goes, when one side is in trouble, all sides will come to their aid." Wang Shi nodded. However, she snorted disdainfully inwardly. "You're Qi Guanyan's trusted subordinates, the most trusted of the direct descendants. Even so, you wouldn't dare to lead troops to attack Ming Province's city without irrefutable evidence, let alone the generals who are separated by a layer of relationship, and the civil officials and aristocratic families who don't submit to the military officials. If I didn't threaten them with a blackmail in my hands, would they be so kind?" However, she did not expose Wang Shi. Instead, she asked anxiously, "Since everyone has been contacted?" Wang Rulong nodded heavily and said loudly, "I was just about to confirm the time with madam. We're all ready. The governor of a province has secretly detained the great general of the province. This is simply appalling. Our dynasty has been established for hundreds of years, and we've never heard of such a thing. Our military officials have been overridden by the civil officials. If we don't teach them a lesson, our colleagues in other provinces will laugh at us for being useless. Besides, our great general is missing and his whereabouts are unknown. How can we just sit by and watch?" Tears flashed in Wang Shi's eyes. She stood up excitedly, walked around the table, and bowed to Wang Rulong. "Then, I'll leave my husband to you, uncles. Madam, rest assured, a lowly general will not disappoint you," Wang Rulong said firmly. However, a lowly general is a rough man and likes to speak first. "Madam, we're deeply indebted to the great general for recognizing our worth. Now that the general is in trouble, we'll naturally jump into the fire and water. We won't shy away from blades and axes. However, leading an army to besiege the capital of a province has already violated a great taboo of the imperial court. At least there's a reason for it. I hope that we can force Lu Shoyin to compromise and send the great general back." Wang Shi nodded and said, "That's my plan." Wang Rulong's eyes were like lightning as he stared at Wang Shi. He said firmly, "If that's the case, then we've reached an agreement with madam. Our performance must be neither servile nor overbearing, and we must force Lu Shoyin to bow his head in an upright manner. However, all of our actions must be based on one premise, and that is we must strictly restrain our soldiers and not do anything out of line, let alone attacking Mingzhou. We must not offend anyone along the way. Even if something happens, we must not attack Mingzhou City. What do you think, madam?" Wang Shi's expression was calm as she said calmly, "Of course. My husband has always loved his people. If I hurt the innocent for him, he definitely won't let me go." A strange light flashed in Wang Rulong's eyes. He lowered his head and cupped his fists. "A lowly general admires madam's righteousness. Since that's the case, let's discuss the specific details." "Of course. General, please take a seat." Wang Shi turned around and returned to the table. She looked at Wang Rulong, who was sitting in the guest seat below, and her heart skipped a beat. None of Qi Guanyan's generals are easy to deal with. They probably have a lot of doubts in their hearts. They might even be suspicious of me and have started to take precautions. But all of this is meaningless. It's useless. It's useless. On the same night, in Mingzhou City, it was peaceful and quiet. Most people went to bed early. They lived in their own world, like fish in a fish tank. They swam in the water and enjoyed themselves. They never knew what was happening outside. Sun Lang sat on the roof and looked at the night sky in boredom. In the empire, which had not been polluted by modern industry, it was normal to see a sky full of stars. There was nothing to see after looking at it for a long time. It was the same endless darkness and the same distant light. However, Sun Lang, as a visitor from Earth, naturally had a way to divert his thoughts. Just like now, when he looked at the sky full of stars, he naturally thought of the popular horoscopes in his previous life. When he thought of the horoscopes, he naturally thought of the legendary Saint Seiya. Since he thought of the Saint Seiya, thus he began to recall the story of Saint Seiya. He began to recall it when he was very young, starting from the distant galactic war. For someone who had been away from home for a long time, imagining things was already a very luxurious entertainment. All kinds of things that happen on Earth, big and small, were incomparably precious. Even if it was a neon cartoon that he had watched when he was young, he was unwilling to forget it. He looked at the sky, full of stars. In his eyes, the shining stars connected together to form a vivid picture, which turned into a sacred battle suit and outlined the bits and pieces of memories. But after all, it was a long time ago, and some of the images were not very clear. He could only fill in the gaps with his imagination. As a result, the Saint Seiya displayed amazing combat skills and martial arts cultivation in battle. Unique skills, such as the Pegasus Meteor Punch and the Rising Dragon of Mount Lu, all became real and terrifying unique skills. This was something that could not be helped. Sigh, if I can go back, even if I can only be a movement guide, I'll be rich. While he was reminiscing, he heard a slight sound of wind. He turned around and saw Long Wanda slowly approaching. Under the moonlight, his golden hair shone with a strange light. The Russian from the Lihuan nation sat down beside him and said, "What are you thinking about?" Sun Lang glanced at him and said, "I'm thinking about, probably some stupid and hot-blooded youngsters went through hard work and put on super awesome armor to become more powerful. Then, for a very inexplicable reason, they fought to the death. In the end, most of them did not get anything." Long Wanda said angrily, "Are you mocking me?" Sun Lang clicked his tongue and said, "We haven't seen each other for a few years, but your heart is still so soft and sensitive. You always have some inexplicable paranoia." Yin Wei was about to retort when he suddenly sighed and said, "Yes, we haven't seen each other for a few years. We haven't seen each other for a few years. We have been looking for you for a few years. We didn't want to believe that you were dead. But after reuniting, I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I feel more confused and lost." Sun Lang reached out and patted him on the shoulder. "That's right. We have reunited, but we haven't had a good chat. We have been at each other's throats since the beginning. It's really inexplicable." Long Wanda was silent for a moment. Then he asked, "These few days when I was out patrolling, I found a lot of military movements. It seems that the matter of the Mingzhou general will be resolved soon. What do you plan to do next?" Sun Lang was stunned for a moment. He waved his hand and said, "Go away. Why are you asking this? You should wait until this matter is over and then go home. This place is not suitable for you." Long Wanda was not angry. He only said calmly, "What about Courier? She wants to stay. She seems to have decided to follow you. But the church will not allow Yin Wei to betray them. They will not allow the blazing angel armed forces to be stranded in a foreign country. They will definitely take action. Are you ready?" Chapter 490. The moonlight shone on Long Wanda's face. His expression was serious. "Are you ready?" Sun Lang smiled. "This is not urgent. We'll talk about it later." "Not urgent?" Long Wanda turned around and said angrily, "This is a war. This is a provocation to the theocracy. Do you really want to have a conflict with my country? You." Do you really think it doesn't matter? He looked into Sun Lang's eyes. His tone slowed down, but it was still cold. The flaming guard took a deep breath and said calmly, "You know what this means. I am a flaming guard personally appointed by His Majesty the Emperor. I am a scout of God. I am the driver of the Lone Ranger. I am a warrior of the flaming country." Sun Lang also turned around and looked into his blue eyes. He smiled. "Do you want to be my enemy?" Long Wanda slowly said, "I am completely different from those country girls who have no moral integrity or loyalty to speak of. I have my own position, my loyalty, my principles, my persistence, my country." Sun Lang said lightly, "You are much stronger than a few years ago." Long Wanda sneered. "That's right. After all, a certain person died just like that. He really used himself as an example to teach me a good lesson, letting me know the cruelty and reality of the world. It won't do if I don't recognize reality. It won't do if I don't become stronger. After all, I am the most reliable." Sun Lang glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. "So this is how you repay the teacher who used his life to teach you his last lesson? It is so sad to have such a bad disciple." Long Wanda coldly replied, "A true teacher will not unscrupulously do things that make things difficult for his students, not to mention openly provoking him, causing his students to be caught in a dilemma between personal friendship and national affairs. You know the consequences of keeping Kuriel by your side, right?" Sun Lang smiled. "What else can I do? Courier is from the conservative bishop faction. You are from the reformist emperor faction. You two are natural enemies. Moreover, this is a personal grudge. If I don't keep her, how can I deal with her? Release her back to Li Hua and let her continue to work for the main sect. Go against you? Or should I capture her and give her to you so that you can bring her back to your country for punishment?" Long Wanda said angrily, "How long have we known each other? I was beaten up like that by that woman, so it's only natural that you want to avenge me and vent my anger for me. Isn't it natural to capture her and hand her over to me? Why did you suddenly hook up with her? How can you be so unprincipled? Didn't you say that you hate men who can't move when they see a beautiful woman?" Sun Lang said proudly, "Tucson is broken, young man. Fantasy and reality were different. For example, when you read casual books, although you like to read exciting and explosive stories, as a reader, you will also be picky. For example, you like harems, but you don't like the female lead to be infatuated with him. For example, you like to see the main character slap his own face, but you don't like the plot to be too melodramatic and the villains to be too retarded. For example, you like to see a strong main character, but you don't like the plot to be too powerful to the point that there is no suspense in the story." At this subtle feeling of being shot, he looked conflicted for a moment, then shook his head and said loudly, "But that's just a novel." He pointed at Long Wanda and said righteously, "If it wasn't for you to read a novel, but for you to transmigrate into the main character of the story, would you be so stupid to set yourself up with such difficulties? Of course, the more infatuated and brainless the female lead, the better. The more retarded and incompetent the enemy, the better, and the bigger the golden finger, the better. You can't wait to have the golden finger of the world modulation mode." After a long speech, he came to a conclusion. "So, although you say that you don't care which man can reject a beautiful, big-breasted, intelligent, and capable woman who is throwing herself at him, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not being a big-breasted hairy girl. Long Wanda, if you can't even recognize this fact, you can only be a virgin for life. Why are the examples you give always so strange? I don't understand what you're saying at all." Long Wanda shouted. "Also, I finally understand the result. You bastard who values a woman over a friend." Sun Lang sneered. "What's wrong with a man valuing a woman over a friend? Both of you are flame guards. Both of you pilot blazing angels. But Courier can F***K, can you? Courier has huge breasts, can you? Courier can have children, can you? Courier can wear little skirts, can you?" Long Wanda said with a subtle expression, "I always feel that you don't have good intentions when you give these examples. In summary, I like Courier, so she wants to stay with her blazing angel." Sun Lang crossed his arms, snorted, and turned his head to the side. I'm not trying to take away a blazing angel to make the strength of both sides unbalanced, so that your Emperor God faction can make trouble for the bishop and increase your chances of winning. Don't misunderstand. Even if you use such a disgusting tone to explain, I won't misunderstand at all. Long Wanda said coldly. So, since you know that you've taken away the most capable person of the bishop faction, you should know the consequences. Not only will they not give up, but they will also use this matter to make a big fuss, and even use their influence to force the Emperor God to make a statement. At that time, what awaits you may be the power of the entire theocracy. Sun Lang blinked and laughed. You're beating around the bush. You're worried about me. T. Long Wanda's expression was calm as he said, because I know what kind of cruel fellow you are, so I'm warning you in advance. Otherwise, if I were to be sent to the battlefield to meet you and be killed by you without hesitation, then I would die too aggrieved. Sun Lang was stunned for a moment, and then a look of admiration appeared on his face. He patted Long Wanda's shoulder and said seriously, I'm impressed. You're the one who's truly incomparably proud. Although I don't know what you're talking about, I really want to beat you up. Sun Lang laughed a few times and said, Don't worry, my target now is the South. There's no reason for me to have a conflict with the Lihua Kingdom. After all, I didn't attack Ming Province to defend the northern border for the Empire and resist Lihua. Moreover, the Emperor God situation isn't very good. We have the foundation for an alliance. When the time comes, I'll ask you to act as the middleman and arrange a meeting with the Emperor God. I'll discuss a small business with him. Long Wanda's expression relaxed a little, and he asked again, and then Sun Lang raised his head and looked at the dark sky. In the south, there was the world's most majestic and prosperous capital city, Hutu Empire, unparalleled in the world. He said indifferently, Do you still need to say it? Revenge. I believe you. You'll definitely get what you want. Long Wanda's eyes shone with a certain light, and he said in a deep voice, And after you've completed your revenge, don't you want to do something else? Killing his way into the imperial capital, seizing the throne, crushing the imperial power, and dominating the world. After accomplishing such a feat, the other things seemed to be. Sun Lang blinked and said in surprise, A great empire? Damn, I remember now. That thing seems to have finally become Chinese. F***CK. I didn't even have time to play with it before I transmigrated. Please stop talking to yourself. Long Wanda complained loudly, and then he took a deep breath. Yin Wei's body was trembling slightly, and he said in a complicated tone, What I mean is the world you talked about before, a more beautiful world, a more perfect country, a new era where even the most ordinary people can obtain dignity and wealth, a real era where hunger, famine, and evil will completely disappear from this land. Sun Lang immediately turned his head and said, I don't want to. Why? Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, My state of mind is not that great. Why would I, a transmigrator, do such things? Besides, I still have a bad debt to settle with this world. Do you think I'm the kind of idiot who repays evil with good? Long Wanda looked shocked. That's not what you said before. Sun Lang proudly said, You're but determines your head, stupid. Previously, I was an oppressed and cynical proletariat. Naturally, I wanted to call for freedom, revolution, and communism. Now that I've been reborn, I've completed the great transition from a proletariat to a feudal, bureaucratic capitalist. Now that I have great power and a bright future, I'm about to become the Zhao of the Zhao. Who has the patience to be equal with the poor bumpkins? These words were so shameless that Long Wanda trembled with anger, but he did not know how to refute. He looked at the proud Sun Lang and said angrily, Sun Lang smiled and added, It's been a few years, and you're still holding on to your fantasies. A true proletariat revolutionary has to rely on himself, right? All the examples of my rise in the great celestial empire have proved one truth, and that is to F***K, the Communist International. If you want to do something, do it yourself. Do you expect me to be an example? He waved his hands and chattered, Come, I'll show you a clear path, and that is to rebel. The monarchy is trash that must be swept into the dust of history, and the integration of religion and politics is the biggest taboo. If you really want to let the people of Lihua live a good life, then you should be prepared to hang your emperor. Come, listen to me in detail. Regarding the situation of Lihua Nation, you have to walk the path of the cities surrounding the villages. First, Long Wanda trembled with fear after hearing a few words. He could not help but ask, "What about you?" Sun Lang was silent for a moment and sighed. When I entered the imperial capital and took over the power, the first thing I did after becoming the prime minister was to increase the salaries of the secretaries and officials in the Guardian Stone Room, Lantai Library, Kirin Record Pavilion, and the secret residence building of the various academies. I increased their salaries by 3 times in one breath, and I distributed them on time without delay. Whoever dared to delay the payment, I would kill their entire family. Long Wanda naturally did not understand this joke and thought that Sun Lang was changing the topic again. He said unhappily, "Since you had the power at that time, couldn't you do something more meaningful?" Bah, Wang Mang's example is still in front of me. As a transmigrator, how could I follow in his footsteps? Sun Lang said disdainfully, "Since I already have the power, I naturally have to do whatever I want. What revolution is there to do? It's a waste of effort, and I might as well F***K women. Those who deserve to be F***Ked will not be left out." Long Wanda was so angry at this mischievous fellow that he rolled his eyes. In a moment of anger, he became bold and asked coldly, "Does that include Instructor Lin and General Shui?" Sun Lang choked. After a while, he let out a barbel-like laugh. "This child, it's the new year, and you're saying such things to spoil the mood. You really don't know what to do." Long Wanda looked on coldly from the side and said slowly, "Maybe they've already heard news and are waiting for your news. If you take the initiative to send them a letter, then it's still fine. But if they get impatient and come looking for you directly, then you're dead for sure." Before he could finish, his head was slapped by Sun Lang. The former marshal said disdainfully, "What does a little brat know?" pretending to be an emotional expert. Long Wanda touched the back of his head and was not angry. He said softly, "Hey, you'll have to face it sooner or later." Sun Lang was silent for a long time and sighed. "You don't understand. They're different from the Jia residents." He was Sun Lang, a time traveler, an imposter who was forced to take the Jia residents' life and was active in the Tianyuan battlefield. His relationship with the Jia residents had changed from a strange vigilance to a false fantasy, and from a gradual acceptance to a sudden awakening of despair. Those people had once given him the warmth of a family, but a lie was a lie, and a lie was a lie. He was not that person. That person was already dead. He was just an imposter. The people of the Rongwa residents were different from Hu Shouxin and Long Wanda. Those old subordinates of the Heaven's Origin sector, those former comrades in arms, even though their names and identities had changed, the comrades in arms who had entrusted their lives to them still existed. After all, it was the soul named Sun Lang who had fought side by side with them. But the Rongwa residence was different. What maintained a relationship between the two was the false name and the identity of the heir of the Rongwa residence, which was built on a lie. That fake identity only brought him painful memories. He didn't want to go back to the past, didn't want to play that role again. But now, what kind of identity and attitude was he going to use to face the people of Rongwa Manor? Although I don't know what you're hesitating about, in this world, there are not many things that can make you reveal such a difficult expression. Long Wanda said softly, "But I still hope that you can think it through as soon as possible. Although I don't know what you're hesitating about, I know that since you're hesitating, it must be your weakness. If you don't fix this weakness as soon as possible, your enemies will attack this weakness. Do you understand?" Sun Lang said indifferently, "I understand." Long Wanda stretched his back. "That's good. Since we're done talking about serious matters, let's chat casually, just like before. It's been a long time since I've heard you talk nonsense." Sun Lang smiled and sat down. "Then let me tell you the story of the Saint Seiya." The night passed in silence. Another day passed just like that. On the morning of the third day, when Sun Lang was in the garden doing eagle flight, Hu Shouxin rushed in with a hurried expression and said in a deep voice, "They're here." Sun Lang's eyes flashed. "They're finally here." Chapter 491. Sun Lang's eyes flashed. It's finally here. The incident in Mingzhou, the dispute between Qi Guanyin and Tensei province. Everything had to come to a conclusion. Then it was time to head south. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. Then, he opened his eyes with a stern expression. It's time to decide the outcome. I don't know what kind of trap the Wang family has in store for us. Let's not screw up. Hu Shouxin said concisely. The various troops in Mingzhou should have contacted each other in private. They mobilized overnight last night with Mingzhou as the center. Almost all the local generals responded to the call and pressed toward Mingzhou. The civil officials also joined in, as well as the noble families in Mingzhou, he snorted. Lu Shouyin is probably in a terrible fix right now. The other party obviously planned this beforehand. When the city gates opened this morning, the messengers waiting outside delivered the letters in their hands to the provincial governor's office like snowflakes. From the civil officials and generals to the family heads, all of them are questioning Qi Guanyin. Sun Lang's expression changed slightly. He smiled and said, "Interesting. All the people in Mingzhou are mobilizing at the same time. The civil and military officials are working together, and the noble families are asking questions. With such unity, I'm afraid that even if Lu Shouyin and Qi Guanyin work together, they wouldn't be able to achieve such an effect. And the Wang family has the ability to link them all together?" Stickhu said in a low voice, "It's blackmail." Sun Lang nodded. "Qi Guanyin told me about the Wang family's account books. This Mingzhou general is smooth and slick. As the saying goes, General Qi enjoys the people. Such a down-to-earth military commander will definitely make a fortune with everyone. The Wang family has always been in charge of the internal and external affairs of the general's office. I'm afraid that all the transactions have been recorded in her little notebook. It seems that the entire Mingzhou is not clean." Hu Shouxin's expression became a little unpleasant. He said coldly, "Snakes and rats alike." Sun Lang said with a smile, "Why are you scolding people? Everyone is a corrupt official. That's not bad." Big Stick, who said coldly, "You're determined to get Ming province, and you've long regarded it as your territory. The officials in charge of managing Ming province are all greedy rats. Are you happy?" Sun Lang smiled and said, "It's okay to be greedy. As long as you know what you're doing and you can get things done, it doesn't matter. After all, we're all in this business, so we have to have some personal pursuits. As the saying goes, don't think about getting rich when you're an official. Just treat it as a joke. Who doesn't have relatives in business?" He looked at Hu Shouxin's stern face and shook his head with a smile. He reached out and patted Hu Shouxin's shoulder. "Old Hu, don't be too idealistic. I also like officials who are honest, but highly capable and wholeheartedly dedicated to the public good. I also wish that all my subordinates were like that. But the problem is that reality is not a game. There are very few people like that. Reality is very cruel. Moreover, everyone has a misconception that whether an official is honest or not has nothing to do with one's ability. The cruel truth is that most honest officials don't have high ability and level. They also have a very fatal weakness." Sun Lang said lightly, "This weakness is that they are not greedy. They are honest officials. They don't take money, so they are fearless. That's why they are independent of the world. That's why they are right. Because of this logic, they have a very high sense of moral superiority. They feel that the world is dirty and they're the only ones who are clean. This sense of superiority often makes them headstrong and self-opinionated. They don't listen to others and don't understand human feelings. As a county magistrate, they treat human lives like grass. As a prime minister, they harm the country and the people. Even if such an official is honest and upright, I don't want him." Hu Shouxin was speechless. In fact, there were very few times when he could argue with Sun Lang. After all, this guy had more fallacious arguments than anyone else. He gritted his teeth and said, "According to what you said, officials must be greedy? Can they be greedy just because they are capable? Is it right to be greedy?" "Of course it's wrong. Sun Lang said with a smile. But the so-called feudal society, the so-called backwardness and ignorance, and the so-called naivety and childishness are the result of placing the officials' corruption and honesty on their personal moral standards and cultivation. As a result, a group of real villains, hypocrites, and the Donglin gang are created. As a result, both honest and corrupt officials have become the parasites of a decaying country. It's really laughable. Therefore, I have never believed in the firmness of people's hearts, let alone the so-called moral standards. If we want the country to be clean and the society to be fair, we have to find another way. Hu Shoshin asked, "What do you mean by another way?" Sun Lang said with a smile, "It's too complicated to explain. Now that we have to maintain stability, we can only use carrots and carrots to make them restrain themselves. But it's still too early to talk about that." He raised his right hand and slowly clenched it. He said casually, "Now that Mingzhou is in chaos and public opinion is surging, the civil and military officials have joined forces with the aristocratic families to threaten Mingzhou. According to the laws of the empire, this can already be classified as a rebellion. The Wang family thinks that they can threaten us by gathering a group of people, but she doesn't know that she is handing the handle to me." As Sun Lang said that, he turned around and revealed a gentle smile. If a group of people doesn't die, how can the remaining survivors know that they have a new boss? If a group of people doesn't die, how can I make room for the people below to be promoted and remembered my good deeds? Hearing that, Hu Shoshin couldn't help but shudder. No wonder you allowed them to work together and didn't take the initiative to attack. Apart from guarding against the Wang family scheme, you also have such a plan, Sun Lang laughed. Apart from that, we have to capture the Wang family alive, so we can't take any risks. Apart from subduing Qi Guanyin, I also have to get the account books that record the dirty transactions in Mingzhou in the Wang family's hands. Those are good stuff. When the two of them walked out of the small garden, Ms. Zhao was already jogging toward them. Sun Lang, Lord Lu sent a message saying that he has issued an urgent order to close the 4 gates, strengthen the security, and control the news. He said that he will rush over immediately after dealing with the matter. Sun Lang said with a smile, "At this moment, Lord Lu must be feeling aggrieved and depressed. But it doesn't matter. If you follow me, there will be plenty of exciting days like this in the future. Ha." Hu Shoshin rolled his eyes and said, "Don't make sarcastic remarks at a time like this. Who do you think caused his current predicament?" Sun Lang said in surprise, "Isn't it the aggressive Tensei province?" That had seemed to make sense. Hu Shoshin was speechless. He changed the topic and asked, "What do we do now?" Sun Lang stretched. "Of course we're going to have breakfast. We've been waiting at ease for so long. We can't afford to be impatient in the end. The other party manipulates public opinion and gathers manpower. They're a righteous army. When they reach the battlefield and set up the stage, they will send us a letter of challenge. Before that, there's no rush." Hu Shoshin asked, "What if the other party gathers a small group of elite troops and attacks the Marquis of Jingganfu?" Sun Lang rejected. "The chances are too small. After all, the Grand General is Qi Guanyin and not Wang Shi. The reason why Wang Shi can do such a big thing is firstly because of her identity as the wife of the general. Secondly, it's because of Qi Guanyin's remaining influence. Thirdly, it's because of the account book in her hands. But she can only do this much. If she wants to mobilize the troops to launch an attack, it's really impossible. After all, those generals aren't idiots. It's fine if they just lead the troops to show off their muscles. In any case, there's a reason for it. How would they dare to actually start a war?" He said with a smile, "Moreover, Qi Guanyin is on our side. Even if he's still throwing a tantrum, if someone really comes to attack the Marquis of Jingganfu, I don't believe that he can sit by and watch us kill his subordinates like chopping vegetables." Only then did Hu Shoshin nod. "You've already considered everything thoroughly." Sun Lang shook his head and sighed. "The so-called good at war has no illustrious achievements. It's just finding and filling in the gaps, sealing off all the variables, then using the strong to bully the weak, fighting a boring victory with a predetermined outcome. Then people will think that you've never used your intelligence, that you don't live up to your reputation, that you only know how to use brute force. This is the sorrow of an unparalleled general like me. Hu Shouxin laughed, really shameless. Sun Lang ignored him and turned to ask young lady Zhao, "Have you eaten?" "I ate a bowl of porridge when I woke up this morning," young lady Zhao said with a smile, "but I still want to eat a bit more with you." Sun Lang smiled slightly and said, "Then let's go." Hu Shouxin asked from behind, "You're not going to tell Qi Guanyin?" Sun Lang turned his head and pursed his lips, saying, "Are you stupid? Wang Shi hasn't finished setting up the stage yet. What are you going to tell Qi Guanyin for? I'm afraid he has other plans in mind. If you tell him early, it'll only create more variables and give him time to prepare. It won't be too late to tell him after you receive the Wang Shi's letter of challenge. Wouldn't it be nice to give him a sudden surprise?" Hu Shouxin snorted, "You're so scheming." Sun Lang laughed heartily. The so-called wisdom of strategizing is not a flash of inspiration to turn the tables in a desperate situation. It's in these small precautions. Keep bragging. Even a wise man's 1,000 considerations are bound to make a mistake. Sun Lang did not turn his head this time. He just raised his right hand and said, "This brute force is used to deal with the occasional mistake. This is what you call steady. What do you think?" Old Hu stopped where he was and shook his head. Sun Lang could happily eat pastries and hot porridge in the company of beauties, but he did not have the leisure and elegance to do so. Just like Lu Shoyin was now under pressure to deal with all the troublesome things that could happen, he also had a lot of things to do. A so-called unparalleled general not only had to be able to size up the situation and be cautious in taking precautions, but also had to have a group of reliable subordinates to help him complete some unremarkable routine tasks. Speaking of which, he walked in another direction, still thinking about what Sun Lang had just said. What method should be used to solve the problem of corruption and ensure the high efficiency of the government's operations and the integrity of the court? It shouldn't be a simple, severe punishment. He thought about it again and again, but could not figure it out. He shook his head and said with a smile, "I'm kind of looking forward to it. No matter what, it's good that you have a way." On the other side, Sun Lang was leisurely eating his rebellious porridge. After he finished the porridge in his bowl, he passed it forward and said, "Another bowl." "Oh." Zhang Yinluo on the opposite side took it skillfully and gave him another bowl of porridge. She handed it over and said, "Drink slowly, be careful of the heat. Forget it, pretend I didn't say anything." After all, this guy was the kind of monster who shot himself in the head and then hit the bullet with his saliva as his daily game. If he wanted, he could even directly drink a mouthful of boiling water and use his icy cold jinchi to freeze it into ice cubes and spit it out from his mouth. Sun Lang sensed her gaze and gave her a thumbs up. The taste of magma is a bit like flour crab porridge. Zhang Yinluo complained loudly, "You even drank that kind of thing before." Sun Lang rolled his eyes and said, "How is that possible? I'm not that stupid." Zhao Fei Huang sat next to Sun Lang and snorted. "How stupid? You even believe this?" Yinluo glared at her. "It's none of your business." The two girls began their daily bickering again, and Sun Lang drank his porridge on the side. After arguing for a while, Yinluo seemed to think of something and looked around. "Huh, why isn't President Hu's family here today? Also, Mr. Joseph and that woman." Zhao Fei Huang asked curiously, "Mr. Joseph? Who's that?" Zhang Yinluo subconsciously blurted out a string of Slaller's name. Looking at Miss Zhao's dumbfounded expression, Zhang Yinluo finally reacted. She laughed involuntarily and said, "I forgot, it's Sir Lone Walker. His empire's name is Long Wanda. I'm still used to calling him Sir Joseph. After all, he is a very famous warrior in the Livefire Kingdom. Speaking of which, did you come up with the name Long Wanda?" Sun Lang chewed a mouthful of spicy radish and said vaguely, "Yes." "I didn't know." Zhang Yinluo was surprised. "You actually came up with such a normal name." Sun Lang smiled proudly, concealing his achievements and fame. "That's why it's usually very lively at this time. Why is it that today?" Yinluo muttered a few words, and her expression suddenly changed. Could it be that? She looked at Sun Lang and said seriously, the Wang Consortium has made their move? Zhao Fei Huang and Sun Lang looked at each other and said, your cow does have the intuition of a domestic animal. Zhang Yinluo complained. What do you mean by the intuition of a domestic animal? Who knows? Zhao Fei Huang said nonchalantly. It's probably because a sow feels that it's about to be slaughtered for meat. Do you want to fight? All right, stop arguing. Sun Lang said, Yinluo, you guessed right. We received news this morning that there's chaos in Mingzhou. The Wang Consortium is about to bring their army to the city. Old Hu and the others are all making their final preparations. Zhang Yinluo's expression changed, and she said faintly, it's begun. Sun Lang comforted her. Don't worry, it won't affect this place. It'll be over soon. I know. You'll protect us well and not let us get hurt. Zhang Yinluo smiled and sighed. I just think General Qi will probably be very sad that things have come to this. Sun Lang was slightly startled, and then said, Qi Guanyin obviously has old feelings for his wife. I'll protect the Wang Consortium's life and give him a chance to end everything and face the past. Yinluo forced a smile. For some reason, she was a little uncertain. She seemed to vaguely realize that things were not that simple. She said softly, I hope so. I hope that lovers don't have to be sad to part. Chapter 492. The Right to Know. The so-called right to know referred to the freedom and power to know and obtain information from official or unofficial channels. In other words, the right to know was an inevitable requirement and result of the democratization of politics. In other words, it was a basic human right that shone with the light of democracy and freedom. However, since ancient times, the right to know had always been a joke. No matter how advanced technology was, no matter how advanced society was, and no matter how brilliant democracy was, the ordinary people's right to know had always been narrow and insignificant. The truth had always been shrouded in layers of conspiracies and fog. Even in the modern society where media and information were extremely developed, regardless of ideology or political system, the so-called right of the masses to know the truth had to go through the castration of the state, the guidance of vested interest groups, and the misdirection of those with ill intentions. The information obtained in this way could not be considered the truth of the matter at all, because the ruled class would always be the ruled class. Even modern society was like this, let alone ancient society. The upper class of Mingzhou was going through an earthquake. Terrible changes were happening. Armies were mobilized everywhere. Civil and military officials were mobilizing at the same time, and the rich and powerful families were also mobilizing their influence. All the spearheads were pointed at Mingzhou. It could be said that a storm had arrived. Now, all the gates of Mingzhou's cities were closed, and all the government offices were operating at full speed. All the rich and powerful families in the city had received the news and locked their doors and stayed neutral. The situation was obviously so bad that it was about to flip the table. However, the commoners did not know anything. They did not know what had happened at all, let alone the inside story of the matter. On the surface, it was the general's wife who had raised her arms to call for the return of the missing general who was suspected to be under house arrest. The loyal soldiers immediately responded, and for righteous indignation and justice, the righteous people from all walks of life in Mingzhou also voiced their support. Everyone was a good comrade who cared about justice. Even if the imperial court wanted to investigate this mutiny, the observant emperor would definitely feel that there was a reason for it and show mercy by not pursuing the matter. Obviously, this was all bullshit. The righteous men from all walks of life in Mingzhou were willing to lend a hand, not because the general was popular, nor was it because they were all righteous comrades. It was simply because the general's wife had too much black material in her hands, which made the men feel very vexed. After all, women had long hair but little knowledge. They were brainless and easily impulsive. Without a husband, they would throw tantrums. If she went crazy and handed those fabricated accounts to the imperial court, everyone would be troubled. Although there was no such thing, what if the imperial court believed it? Therefore, Everyone understood Wang Shi's feelings. Her husband was under house arrest, and his life was hanging by a thread. In a moment of desperation, she did something like flipping the table. Although she was not particular about it, they were all people with families and careers. How could they stoop to the level of a woman? Please help him. Therefore, in the spirit of humanitarianism, although everyone was gnashing their teeth in hatred and wanted nothing more than to send assassins to kill Wang Shi, they still had to pinch their noses and say a few words in response. Then, they went to Mingzhou to support Wang Shi, thinking about how they would settle the score after this matter was over. The inside story, the truth, the exchange of benefits, and the filthy compromises were intertwined to form a major event that shook Ming province. It was hidden under the appearance of being dignified and having a good reason to send out troops. The vast majority of the people would never know about the things that were covered up for the rest of their lives. On the city wall at the north gate of Mingzhou, Sun Lang, Hu Shouxin, and Lu Shoyan stood on a battlement and looked into the distance. The gate had long been closed. The people who wanted to enter the city had already sensed something was wrong and had already stayed far away. Dust gradually rose in the distance, and a black line was faintly pressing toward them. They did not know which army it was. Sun Lang narrowed his eyes and observed for a while, then said with a smile, "Right now, the gun will hit the bird that sticks out." Although all the prefectures in Mingzhou are working together and moving out together, the law cannot punish the masses. Lord Liu, you may not have the ability to settle the score with the entire Mingzhou army, but if any army gets too close, you can still write it down in your little notebook and complain later. The generals are not stupid. They will probably stop there. Yes, young master, you are wise. Lu Shoyan flattered him a little. Now that the city gate is closed and the yamen has been mobilized to pacify the people and suppress the unrest, there won't be any trouble in the city. Now you just need to sit tight and wait for Wang Shi to make her move. Then you can crush her and win. Sun Lang thought for a while, then suddenly laughed out loud. Lu Shoyan was puzzled. Why are you laughing? Sun Lang pointed outside and laughed. I'm laughing at Wang Shi's lack of strategy after all. His subordinate Xiaoba Shaoji has made such a big scene and wants to put the blame on us, but he doesn't know how to mobilize the people. Lu Shoyan was surprised. Huh? Sun Lang shook his head and sighed. Limitations. The limitations of the feudal bureaucracy and the landlord class. They look down on the ordinary people of the middle and lower class. Tell me, they claim that we put Qi Guanyin under house arrest, so they gather people to ask for justice. Then, why don't they spread the news and let the whole city know about it? Even if the people can't do anything big, they can always put us in a terrible situation. Hu Shouxin wiped the sweat on his forehead. You can have *King talk less. Lu Shoyan forced a smile and said, Young master, are you trying to fill in the gaps and remind me to pay attention to public opinion? You worry too much. Although water can carry a boat, it can also sink it, but in the end, the so-called power of the people is actually the same thing. Indeed, there are many people. The power of all the people in the world combined is indeed enough to overturn rivers and seas and split mountains. But the problem is their power can't be combined. Sun Lang's expression changed, and he said cheerfully, Go on. He lowered his head and said, The truth is like this. If there is no hero leading the people are like a plate of loose sand. They are like pigs and sheep waiting to be slaughtered. They're like cows that work hard to make a living. They work hard and sweat to create an endless stream of wealth and taxes that will never belong to them. They support people like us. No one takes them seriously because they're not a problem at all. The prefecture overseer glanced at the angry Hu Shouxin and said lightly, General Hu, you don't have to look at me like this. I am an official of a prefecture. I also hope that the people can live in peace and contentment. I also do my best to manage the government and strive for harmony between the people and prosperity of all industries so that they can live a good life. But this does not prevent me from seeing through their essence. In the glorious history of mankind, the changes of the world, the changes of the dynasties, the stages of the world, the heroes and the land, the successes and failures, in the modeled history, there has never been a place for a bumpkin to speak. Hu Shoshin said coldly. Did you eat those heroes who started from nothing? Well said, Lu Shoshin said calmly. Lu Shoyin said calmly. But if I may ask, General Hu, do the heroes who rose from humble beginnings live in luxurious clothes and luxurious houses after they become famous? Or do they continue to carry hoes and go home to farm? Hu Shoshin was at a loss for words. Sun Lang laughed. Prefecture Overseer Lu, you're a wise man. Indeed, there's no need to exaggerate the strength of the people. There's also no need to overly deify them. The villagers don't care about doctrines and ideals, and they don't know about giving and sacrificing. If you want to borrow the strength of the people, you must first show the benefits. Those who succeed are always realists. They are people who do things and not talk empty talk. He raised a finger and said with a smile, take the current situation, for example. The Wang family wants to use the strength of the people to suppress public opinion. If they're just pretending to be pitiful and say that we're keeping her husband under house arrest, it'll be useless. What does it have to do with us if she loses her husband? However, if we think about it from another perspective, if we tie General Qi's house arrest to the vital interests of the people, the villagers will be much more enthusiastic. Sun Lang said with a smile, for example, if the army besieges the city, the price of goods skyrocketed, and the people are in a state of panic, it's all the fault of the prefecture overseer for keeping the general under house arrest. If the people don't have enough to eat, they'll be anxious as well. They'll definitely resent Lord Lu for kidnapping the general. People will only jump out when their own interests are at stake. Prefecture overseer Lu grumbled inwardly. However, as a civil official, he knew the importance and benefits of taking the blame for his superior. He calmly accepted that Lord Lu kidnapped the general. He cupped his fists and said, your words are thought-provoking, young master. However, I don't think the Shrew Wang family could have come up with such an idea. Sun Lang frowned. That's hard to say. You didn't notice anything unusual? Absolutely not. Lu Shoyin said solemnly. The Sixth Fan School has recruited the people of the city as our eyes and ears. There's no such news among the people. I've also asked the warriors under General Hu to help me gather information, but there's nothing unusual either. Sun Lang's expression changed slightly. He said softly, that's strange. Lu Shoyin did not know what Sun Lang was thinking. He was about to ask when footsteps rang from below the battlements. A public servant with a saber slung over his waist hurried up the stairs and stopped in front of the three of them. He bowed at Prefecture Overseer Lu and said, Master, Lu Shoyin said indifferently, there are no outsiders here. Speak frankly. Understood. The public servant said loudly, there's a messenger from the general's mansion outside the city requesting an audience. The three of them exchanged a look. Sun Lang said with a smile, the letter of challenge is here. It seems like the Wang family stage is set. Lu Shoyin looked at Sun Lang questioningly. Sun Lang gave it some thought before he said, at this point, there's no need to play any tricks. Let's just meet him here and ask him why he's here. Prefecture Overseer Lu nodded without hesitation and said, all right, open the door and let the messenger see me. The public servant left after receiving the order. Sun Lang smiled at Hu Shoshin. Let's take our leave for now. Sun Lang was one of the few experts under the heavens. It was easy for him to hold his breath. Old Hu, on the other hand, was a famous archer in the Tianyuan army. It was only natural that he knew how to launch sneak attacks. He was much more cunning than Han Zong. The two of them found a place to hide. Unless the messenger was a great elite like Qi Guanyin, it would not be easy for him to discover them. Clearly, the other party was not. With the order from the prefecture overseer, the thick and heavy city gates opened slightly, allowing the messenger to enter. Under the surveillance of the city's elite guards, the messenger climbed up the city wall and greeted Lu Shoyin. The man was tall and straight, and his eyes were bright. He had the air of a soldier, and his martial arts were not weak. Since he was chosen as the messenger under such circumstances, he must be one of the heroes in Ming Province's army. He bowed and said, Greetings, Lord Prefecture Overseer. Lu Xiaoyan was submissive and eloquent in front of Sun Lang, but in front of others, he had to put on airs as the secretary of the provincial party committee. He flicked his sleeve and said coldly, "Forget it. You've led the army into Ming province, disturbed the people, and challenged the emperor's authority. I'm afraid you've lost your mind. You don't have to put on an act in front of me." The nameless soldier smiled and said, "Your words are boring, my lord. You know very well why the army is here. We have no choice. After all, we have the old and the young at home, and we're eating the court's food. Why would we do such a disgraceful thing for no reason?" Lu Zhou said coldly. The man cut Lu Zhou off. He lowered his head and said, "My lord, there's no need to argue with a nobody like me. I'm just a messenger who delivers a letter on behalf of the madam and the generals. It's useless even if you refute me. Let's get straight to the point." He produced a letter from his pocket and handed it to Lu Zhou with both hands. He said loudly, "Today, everyone from the civil and martial sects in Ming province, including the noble clans, are waiting outside Ming province city. The madam has invited the heroes of Ming province to be witnesses. She wants them to tell the truth in broad daylight and confront the whereabouts of the great general. She hopes that the prefecture overseer will do her the honor of explaining. Not only will you be able to clear your name, but you'll also be able to avoid a disaster of war." Lu Xiaoyan reached out to take the letter. He snorted and said, "Avoid a disaster of war? That sounds nice. Moreover, you've besieged Ming province, but you want me to talk to you in your headquarters? Isn't this coercion? Since you're interested in resolving this matter, why didn't the Wang family come to Ming province city and let me host you?" The messenger said calmly, "Apart from the civil and martial sects and the noble clans, there are also thousands of ordinary soldiers here. They're grateful for the great general's kindness and are willing to do such a thing to repay his kindness. Hence, they have a right to know the truth immediately. The madam can enter Ming province city, but they can't all go in, right? It's better to invite the prefecture overseer out of the city." He thought about it for a moment before he explained, "If you're worried about your safety, my lord, you can bring elite soldiers and elites with you to protect you. It doesn't matter how many of them there are. Moreover, everyone is here to resolve this matter, not to fight. Even if the civil and martial officials of Ming province and the noble clans are here, they won't let you come to any harm." Sun Lang and Hu Shouxin listened from the side. They exchanged a look, and something stirred in their hearts. As expected, Wang family refused to enter the city. Indeed, if she really came in and entered Marquis Jing'an's mansion, she would be dead the moment Shi Guanyin came out. In other words, she insisted on holding the meeting and negotiation outside the city, her home ground. Could it be that she had also arranged some sort of scheme and was waiting for them to walk right into her trap? Lu Xiaoyan pondered for a moment. Following Sun Lang's instructions, he said, "All right, outside the city is fine, but I'll still have to decide on the meeting location." Chapter 493. It was already prepared. The two blazing angels rose into the air. The death messenger and the lone wanderer ruled the skies of Mingzhou City, guarding against any possible enemy, blazing angels. It was already prepared. The servants and guards of the Marquis of Jing'an's manor had already been mobilized. Beacon towers had been set up all over the manor, and the elite horsemen had prepared fine horses. If there were any strange movements, they could immediately send out a warning. It was already prepared. The messenger sent to the Zhang Manor had not failed in his mission and had returned, accompanied by the Zhang Manor's private soldiers. The old master of the Zhang Manor had also placed his bet on Sun Lang. At a time like this, they would not leave him alone. In addition, the Ranger Guild, Embroidered Spring Hall, and the various yamens under the provincial governor's manor had all worked together. From the government to the marketplace to the noble families, a complete defense and alert system had already been established. Even if something unexpected happened, they could send out a warning signal as quickly as possible and hold out until Sun Lang hurried back. That's good. In the Marquis of Jing'an's manor, after everything had been arranged, Sun Lang said indifferently, "With two blazing angels holding down the fort, and with Master Sanzang and Yin Luo covering from the side, no matter what happens, it won't collapse at the first touch. With this arrangement, there won't be a sneak attack. Lu Xiaoyan asked. Then the Wang family's invitation. Sun Lang thought for a bit, then said, "Let's go take a look first." Lord Lu is the main culprit in detaining Qi Guanyin, who Shouxin is an accomplice, and I'm just an insignificant bystander. The three of us should go show our faces and see what medicine the Wang family is selling in their gourd, and if there's anything we can take advantage of. Old Hu asked, We're not bringing Qi Guanyin with us." Sun Lang asked in return, "Why should we bring Qi Guanyin with us?" Hu Shouxin glared and said, "Wait, isn't this the strategy we've already decided on? They've been tricked by the Wang family to frame us for detaining Qi Guanyin, so we'll just bring General Qi over and let the lie collapse on its own. At the same time, we'll solve the Wang family's problem. Isn't this the most correct and effective plan?" Sun Lang said with a subtle expression. Then, "Old Hu, I've always wanted to ask you something. Have you told too many lies that you've deceived yourself?" Old Hu blinked. "Huh? I mean," Sun Lang sighed. "It's a fact that we put Qi Guanyin under house arrest." "What framing?" Old Hu was stunned at first, then showed an awkward expression. The atmosphere suddenly quieted down. After a moment, he argued, But we do have a consensus, right?" No, Sun Lang said. "Qi Guanyin does seem to be a trump card that can solve all problems, but it's not that easy to use. He's like the liquid Tiberium bomb in the final stage of Command and Conquer 3, GDI. If used, it can indeed directly kill those stupid aliens, but it will also cause a lot of problems, such as a large number of civilian casualties and the ending animation that hurts the players' hearts," Hu Shouxin said loudly. "Please give me an example that I can understand." Anyway, it's good that you understand." Sun Lang spread his hands and said, "A few days ago, I had a last chat with Qi Guanyin and found that he seemed to be planning something. For us, he is indeed an unstable factor. If we directly bring him out to fight against the Wang Consortium, I'm afraid it will cause some big news for us." Old Hu was dumbfounded. "What do you mean?" "What I mean is, the current situation is not so bad that we have to drag Qi Guanyin out to turn the tide. So to be safe, we don't need to call Qi Guanyin now, and we don't even need to let him know about this matter." Sun Lang spread his hands and said, "The three of us will be enough." Hu Shouxin cried out, "Wait a minute, the soldiers and civil and military officials outside have been bewitched. They called us out to save Qi Guanyin. What are we going to do if we don't take Qi Guanyin with us?" Sun Lang said as if nothing had happened. "Of course we'll act according to the circumstances." "How will we act according to the circumstances?" "Look, since the Wang Consortium did such a thing, they must have considered the consequences of us bringing Qi Guanyin with us. Maybe they have already arranged the corresponding countermeasures. If we don't bring Qi out first, we can definitely catch this woman off guard." He revealed his shiny teeth and laughed heartily. "She must suspect that we are up to something when she sees that her husband is not here. So, when we pretend to be polite and have a big argument with her, we can take the opportunity to make things difficult for her. We can capture this woman among the millions of soldiers and then use her as a hostage to break out of the encirclement and return to Mingzhou. Isn't this a perfect way to attack the root of the problem?" Hu Shouxin said in shock. "Then those soldiers will definitely go crazy. They might even attack the city directly." Sun Lang whistled. "Now it's time for Qi Guanyin to show up. Since we've captured his wife, we have a trump card in our hands. We can just let Qi go to the top of the wall and shout for the soldiers to get out." Hu Shouxin squinted and said, "What if he doesn't want to?" Sun Lang sneered and said, "Are you stupid? His wife is in our hands. If he dares to disobey us, we must let him have a taste of what it's like to offend his wife. I won't do anything else. I'll just poke his wife. I won't poke anywhere else. I'll just poke her shoulder. Gently once, twice, 3 times, Hu Shouxin complained loudly. "Why is it that you're the righteous side, but your way of solving problems is always so evil?" However, after he finished complaining, he thought for a moment and nodded. This method is indeed feasible. As long as we capture the Wang Consortium and make it an established fact, it doesn't matter if Qi Guanyin still has feelings for the Wang Consortium or what plans he has." Sun Lang smiled and said, "Yes, this is the method of drawing on the advantages and avoiding the disadvantages. It maximizes the usefulness of Qi Guanyin and avoids the unstable factors in him. It's the most efficient way to solve the problem. All right, since there are no objections, let's set off." He turned around and reminded Miss Zhao and Yin Luo. "Go ahead, Sun Lang. I'll take care of the trivial matters for you." Zhao Fei Huang said with a smile, "I'll take good care of myself and this cow. You won't have to worry about anything." Yin Luo noticed the look in Sun Lang's eyes. He snorted and said, "I know. After you leave, I'll activate the Flaming Sun Power Armor and establish a battlefield link with that woman and Sir Joseph. Master Sanzang is back as well. With the two blazing angels, we can deal with almost any type of enemy. You don't have to worry." Sun Lang smiled. "Be careful. Don't put yourself in danger. I'll be back soon." Then, he walked toward the door. Hu Shouxin and Lu Zhou nodded at the two young girls before they followed him out. Yin Luo looked at the lonely figure. For some reason, tears welled up in his eyes. "I'm waiting for the return of my beloved." Miss Zhao said softly, "This feeling isn't bad." Horses were already prepared outside. The three of them took the reins and leaped onto the horses. With a wave of their hands, they dismissed the servants of the Marquis's mansion. Hu Shouxin looked at Sun Lang and said with a smile, "You'll get used to it. You know someone's waiting for your return. That's why you have to come back alive every time. You've been alone for so many years." Finally, Sun Lang said softly, My wife." All right. I was wrong. I won't say anything else, all right?" Lu Shoyin had been smiling at the side without saying a word. He looked at Hu Shouxin, who was baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. A hint of envy flashed in his eyes. It was truly a blessing to have such a relationship with a marshal. "Lord Lu," Sun Lang said, "the three of us are going to the banquet. We won't bring any troops with us. We're facing hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers and elites. On the other hand, we're going to do something earth-shattering. Are you afraid?" Lu Zhou's eyes gleamed. He said with a smile, "I'm the prefecture governor of Ming Province. I'm in charge of the affairs of the province. The people love me, and my subordinates respect me. Whether it's in terms of connections, prestige, ability, or understanding of the province, I'm the best. I don't dare to say that no one can replace me, but in the next few years, no one will be able to do a good job as the prefecture governor of Ming Province. Young master, since you're so ambitious, why should I be afraid? Even if you bring me into a tiger's den, I'm afraid I'll be as safe as Mount Tai." Sun Lang let out a joyful laugh. No wonder, since ancient times, most of the emperors had favored and trusted their courtiers. After all, such an extremely intelligent person was using all his wisdom to please you. How could you not be happy? Let's go then. The horses' hooves clacked against the ground as they galloped along Ming Province's main road toward the outskirts of the city. More than 30 miles north of Ming Province, banners and flags were waving in the wind, and camps were set up in great numbers. As expected of the troops under Qi Guanyin's command, the barracks were strictly set up, and the layout was extensive and orderly. The troops stationed here were the Huqing troops, the elites under the direct command of Mingzhou's great general Qi Guanyin. They were the most powerful army in Mingzhou, and also the most trusted force of the Wang family. After all, although the troops of Ming Province's various military manners obeyed the great general's orders, they were not as good as the great general's direct subordinates. As the saying went, it was hard to know what was in a person's heart. Who knew what the other party was thinking? Let alone the civil officials and noble families who were forced to come here by the account books. Although they appeared polite on the surface, the killing intent in their hearts was stronger than anyone else's. The mastermind of this illegal military demonstration was undoubtedly the general's wife, Wang family. She was the leader and the host. She was in charge of all negotiations with Ming Province and was the leader of the alliance. She was in charge of arguing with Lu Zhou and the others while the others were in charge of waving the flags and shouting battle cries. At this moment, Wang family was overseeing the main tent in the center of the army. Below her, the generals under Qi Guanyin stood in line. Messengers kept entering and leaving the tent to report on military affairs while Wang family gave out orders. Her analysis was meticulous, and there was no mistake about it. She already had the bearing of a great general. Although the generals did not say anything, they were secretly impressed. After the messengers left the tent, Wang family stood up and said calmly, "Generals, the men have cleared an empty square and set up a pergola. We've also prepared fruits and wine. Our good friends from all walks of life in Ming province will be here soon. Once they're here, we can begin. It's all thanks to all of you that things have gone so smoothly. I thank all of you in advance." Wang Rulong had the highest military rank and seniority. He was the leader of the generals. When he heard Wang family's words, he bowed and said, "It's our duty. There's no need to be so polite, madam. We're united. We'll definitely rescue the general in one piece. However, who's coming from Ming province?" Chen Dishang smiled and said, "Brother, you've been patrolling with the army. You might not know this, but Lord Lu Shoyin, the prefecture governor of Ming province, has agreed to attend the meeting." He initially insisted on choosing the meeting location. However, it's all thanks to our messenger's eloquence that he agreed to attend the meeting. Wang Rulong was taken aback. "I've met Lord Lu several times. He's smart, capable, and resourceful. Why would he be provoked? Isn't he a little too quick to agree to it?" Wang family said gently, "In any case, we don't have any tricks up our sleeves. It's a good thing that Lord Lu is willing to attend the meeting. If there's a misunderstanding, it'll be good for us to clear things up." Wang Rulong frowned slightly. For some reason, Madame had given him a strange feeling from the very beginning, which made him subconsciously put up his guard. In the past few days, Madame had been strategizing, scheming, and executing every order in a hurry. It could be said that she was swift and efficient. She seemed to have turned all her concern for her husband into motivation. She did everything herself, and her orders had to be carried out thoroughly. She was even stricter than the strictest general. Moreover, she had been extremely suspicious and cautious. After entering the army, she immediately ordered for the security to be tightened and the news to be sealed. She had deliberately set up a misleading formation and managed the military camp like an iron bucket. She would be shocked at the slightest movement for a while. Why did she suddenly change her attitude today? Lu Shoyin's behavior was so suspicious, but she didn't care anymore. Just as he was about to ask, hurried footsteps came from outside. Reporting, Wang family's expression froze. She raised her voice and said, "Come in." Another messenger strode in and saluted with a fist salute. "Reporting, madam. The scouts have found the target." Everyone's spirits were lifted. Wang family asked, "How many people are there?" The messenger said in a deep voice, "There are no soldiers, only 3 people and 3 mounts. The governor of Mingzhou, Lu Shoyin, and the head of the Ranger Association, Hu Shouxin. There's also a young man I don't know accompanying them. He should be an attendant." Wang family's expression was strange. Then she asked, "Only 3 people?" The messenger nodded. "Yes, only 3 people." The generals looked at each other in dismay. Someone praised, "Lord Prefecture Overseer is quite brave." Someone else said disdainfully, "He's probably sure that we won't dare to harm him. He also knows that no matter how many soldiers he brings, it's useless. So, he might as well go alone and show us his strength." Wang family was silent. Her expression changed. No one knew what she was thinking. After a while, she said lightly, "Etiquette can't be ignored. General Wang, please take a group of people and go out to welcome them." In addition, the other party came alone. Although his courage is commendable, all soldiers are cunning. We must be on our guard. Generals, pass down the order. Have a whole army be on alert. Send out scouts and be careful. I will inform the friends who came to help that our guest has arrived. The generals left after receiving the order. Wang family stood in place and sighed slowly. She said lightly, "If they don't come, then it's fine." At the same time, in Marquis Jinggan Fu, Qi Guanyin, whose meridians were sealed, was meditating on the bed. Suddenly, he sensed something and stood up. He walked to the window and pushed it open to look at the sky. He heard some sounds and also saw a faint shadow. The Grand General walked to the courtyard and looked at the hidden guards outside the moon gate and on the treetops. He seemed to be in deep thought. After a while, he suddenly said, "Big brother outside, I want to see Sun Lang. It's an extremely urgent matter. Please pass on a message for me." Chapter 494. There was no response from outside. Qi Guanyin waited for a moment, then gently repeated, "Big brother outside, I have an extremely urgent matter that requires an audience with Sun Lang. Please pass on a message for me." The head guard in charge of watching Qi Guanyin was also a loyal servant. Other than loyalty, his martial arts and personality were also top-notch, which was why he was given such an important task. But his opponent was Qi Guanyin. The difference in strength and intelligence between the two was like heaven and earth. Without needing an answer, Qi Guanyin had already gotten the answer he wanted from the increase in a number of hidden sentries and the silence after 2 questions. So he said calmly, "I will give you 15 minutes to report to someone who can make the decision here. Otherwise, I will go find her myself." Still silence. Then the sound of hurried footsteps sounded, getting further and further away. Success. But there was no joy on Qi Guanyin's face. His eyes were blank and sighed. It was really complicated. Then he lowered his head, a strange smile on his lips. Today, everything had to have a result. What? Miss Zhao stood up. "Qi Guanyin wants to see Sun Lang." The head guard in charge of monitoring Qi Guanyin was standing in the hall. He lowered his head, not daring to look at eldest Mississippi. He responded, "Yes, General Qi said so." He also said that he would only give this lowly one 15 minutes to summon the person who could make the decision in the Marquis Fu to see him. Otherwise, he would go out and find him himself. Zhao Feihuang said in a low voice, "Sun Lang just left and this happened. The timing is too coincidental. Qi Guanyin must have discovered something. What does he want to do?" Housekeeper Su couldn't sit still anymore. She said, "Miss, please leave for now." Miss Zhao waved her hand. "No need. Didn't Qi Guanyin's meridian point be sealed by Sun Lang?" "That won't do." Housekeeper Su said anxiously, "General Qi's martial arts are excellent, and he is already in the realm of great grandmaster. Even if his meridian point is sealed by Sun Lang, with his ability, as long as he is willing to pay a price, he can still open his meridians. His martial arts are excellent, and he is a famous general in the army. If he acts up, no one in the manor can stop him. So, Miss Zhao, please leave for now and let me deal with him." Zhao Feihuang looked up at the sky. "Aren't there 2 blazing angels up there? They're the strongest weapons in the Fire Kingdom. 2 against 1. They should be able to defeat an injured Qi Guanyin. Martial arts experts are different from mortals who rely on external objects. What's more, that blazing angel is a leaf fire expert armor. It relies on sharp firearms to fight, and the range of the battle is very wide. If it fights with General Qi here, no matter what the result is, the House of Marquis will definitely turn into a sea of fire, and countless people will be injured." Su Qingwan said decisively, "This is too risky. We have to call back Sun Lang. This is no longer something we can deal with." Miss Zhao thought for a moment and calculated the time. She shook her head and said, "No, with the speed of the Marquis horses, Sun Lang and the others have already met up with the people of the Wang family. Sun Lang and the other 2 must have come to the meeting to show their weakness and numb the enemy. Then they can take advantage of the situation and do something big. At such a critical moment, we can't distract him. The situation is not that serious." She turned to look at Zhang Yinluo with a strange expression. At this time, Yinluo was already equipped with a power armor. The cool shape of the Yang Yin power armor combined with the very Russian paint gave people a feeling of, "Oh my god, this is awesome." Obviously, Yinluo's style changed when he put on the power armor. At this moment, the eldest daughter of the Zhang family in Mingzhou was leaning against a beam in boredom. She held the thermite heavy machine gun in her left hand and the dragonfire bolt gun on her shoulder in her right hand. Feeling Zhao Feihuang's gaze, she turned to look and asked, what are you looking at? Miss Zhao subconsciously took a step back. Even her personality and tone of voice had changed. Is this Russian armor poisonous? However, Zhao Feihuang quickly realized her gaffe. She cleared her throat calmly and said as if nothing had happened, hurry up and contact the 2 Russians in the sky. Tell them to lower their altitude and lock onto the courtyard where Qi Guanyin is. Be on full alert. I'll talk to him and see what he wants to do. Su Qingwan was anxious. She hurriedly stood in front of Miss Zhao and said loudly, Eldest Miss, please think twice. This is too dangerous. At such a close distance, if Qi Guanyin wants to hurt you, no one can stop him. Miss Zhao smiled and said, Sister Su, don't worry. If Qi Guanyin wanted to make a move, he could have done it just now. He said that he wanted to talk to us, which means that things haven't reached that point yet. Sun Lang said that Qi Guanyin has ulterior motives. We can take advantage of this opportunity to test what he wants to do. However, Su Qingwan was not interested in this. In her eyes, the safety of the eldest miss was more important than anything else. Therefore, she would not allow Zhao Feihuang to go to a dangerous place, even if it was only a little bit dangerous. Zhao Feihuang was both helpless and touched. Seeing Su Qingwan's stubborn face and refusing to budge, she couldn't do anything. She regarded Su Qingwan as her elder sister, so she would never use her psychic ability on her. While the 2 sides were in a deadlock, Luo suddenly said, Why don't I go? Zhao Feihuang was startled and shook her head. No, it's too dangerous. Zhang Luo smiled and said, You also know it's dangerous. Miss Zhao snorted. I'm willing to go. It's my own business, and I'm confident that I can protect myself. But if a cow like you doesn't know how to talk and annoys Qi Guanyin, both sides end up fighting, and your chest is beaten up, losing your only value in this world. What will you do then? Zhang Luo said loudly. How can I be beaten up? It's not like it's inflatable. Besides, don't define other people's lives as a strange value. Zhao Feihuang snorted and said, Anyway, I just can't do it. Although your chest has nothing to do with me, Sun Lang will definitely be very angry when he comes back and sees it. He might even blame me. I don't want to carry this pot. Hearing her words, Luo smiled. I know you're worried about me, but with this suit of armor, my combat power has increased greatly. Even if it's General Qi, he won't be able to get rid of me in a short period of time. Even if the worst happens, I can still hold on until the 2 blazing angels come to my rescue. I'm much stronger than you. Who's worried about you? I'm just worried that I'll be blamed by Sun Lang. Zhao Feihuang muttered. Also, Qi Guanyin wants to see the person who can make the decision in the Marquis residence. This is my home, so I should be the one to go, but I know General Qi. I went to see him with Sun Lang before and even chatted with him for a while. We can barely be considered acquaintances and should be able to talk to each other. He should have a good impression of me. Luo's tone was a little hesitant, and I'm also a little confused about General Qi's words. So let me do it. Looking at Su Qingwan, who didn't back down, and thinking about the 15 minutes Qi Guanyin said, Zhao Feihuang was silent for a moment and sighed. Then she looked at Luo and said seriously, Zhang Luo, although I'm very unwilling, you have to remember one thing. If you die, the people who will be buried with you will probably be much more than the number of people who were buried with all the emperors before the abolition of human sacrifice. There will be so many that you won't be able to count them all in your life. Luo leaned the gun in her hand against the pillar and took off her helmet. She revealed a smile that was mixed with worry and sweetness as she softly said, Yes, I know. Being entangled by such a troublesome person really makes me feel complicated. All right, don't glare at me with such a terrifying gaze. I admit that I'm a little secretly delighted. Destroying the world for me, or whatever, I still have the heart of a young girl. She put on the helmet again and said in a soft but firm voice, Then, on the premise of living well, I also want to help him a little, just like you. You should understand my feelings. Zhao Feihuang also smiled. Well, I'll let you be in the limelight this time. Inluo raised a gun and said, "Let's go, it's almost time." In the sky, Courier, Long Wanda, and Zhang Inluo set up a temporary battlefield communication channel. After listening to Inluo's simple explanation of the cause and effect, Courier said coldly, "You overestimate yourselves, both of you. You Eastern women look gentle and considerate, but in fact, you are extremely arrogant in your bones. You always have to show that you have functions other than mating and reproduction." Long Wanda said, "Courage and confidence are the best qualities a warrior can show. It's a very wise choice. Zhang Inluo, you can't stand by that man's side just by relying on your chest." Zhang Inluo said with a complicated tone, "You can do whatever you want. Remember to protect me." The two of them answered in the communication channel. Inluo moved her right hand, and the steel protective gear nimbly clenched and unclenched. The flaming sun armor, which represented the best war craftsmanship of the Lihuan nation, gave her a familiar sense of strength and security. Zhang Yinluo was going to fight. She quickly arrived at the courtyard where Qi Guanyin was under house arrest. Through the moon gate, Yinluo saw Qi Guanyin standing alone in the courtyard. The general's eyes were closed, and there was a mixture of loneliness and gentleness on his face. It was as if he was reminiscing about everything he had experienced and lost. She often saw this expression on her grandfather's face. Every time he told her about the past when he was young, the old man would always reveal this expression at the end, deep in thought, reminiscing. The sound of the flaming sun armor moving woke Qi Guanyin up. He opened his eyes and looked at the steel bro walking over. He couldn't help but jump in fright, and his face revealed a blank expression. Inluo revealed an awkward but polite smile. Unfortunately, Qi Guanyin couldn't see it because of the helmet. The young girl raised her right hand, ready to greet him, only to find that she was holding the Dragon Fire bolt gun in her right hand. The effect of this action was almost the same as the King of Wasteland's Raggedy King's pose. She was so frightened that she hurriedly threw the bolt gun to the side and said in a sorry state, "General, it's me." Although the voice was a little distorted due to the helmet, Qi Guanyin still recognized it. He asked in surprise, "You are Miss Zhang?" Zhang Yinluo laughed dryly and said, "Yes. Yes, because I didn't know what would happen. I still wore this armor to see you for safety's sake. After all, I'm also very afraid of death." Because the communication channel was still connected, Courier and Long Wanda both heard this stupid thing. Death Messenger sighed and said, "Sure enough, as an Easterner, the reason why her chest is so exaggerated is because she has absorbed nutrients from her brain. I haven't seen her for 2 years, and this woman has become even more stupid." Long Wanda didn't say anything, seemingly shocked. General Qi was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed and said, "You are quite honest. This armor should be the flaming sun armor of the Lihuan nation. The Zhang family can actually get their hands on this kind of thing." Yinluo smiled and didn't say anything. General Qi looked at Yinluo a few more times, and his expression calmed down. He said indifferently, "I just said that I want to see the person who can make the decision here. Why is Miss Zhang here? Now that things had come to this, what could be done?" Yinluo was thick-skinned and boasted shamelessly, "I can also make the decision on the matters of Marquis Jinggan Fu." Qi Guanyin looked at her with a subtle expression. "Miss is a proud daughter of the heavens. Why?" "AI, forget it. This kind of person doesn't have the right to say that kind of thing. Let's talk about proper business." He paced back and forth on the spot, as if he had made up his mind, and asked, "Dare I ask, miss, where is Sun Lang?" Yinluo thought about it. Since Qi Guanyin had already sent some clues, then even if she tried to hide and deceive, she wouldn't be able to hide it from the other party's eyes. She might as well tell him frankly, "I won't hide it from General Qi. Sun Lang has already left the city to see your wife. Your wife has brought a large army here and sent an ultimatum here." Even though he was already mentally prepared, Qi Guanyin still felt pain in his heart. He revealed a distressed expression and said softly, "As expected, she came. As expected." Zhang Yinluo also felt uncomfortable and said, "Now that things have come to this, General might as well use the sword of wisdom to cut off the threads of affection. Now, Wang Shi has deceived all of Mingzhou and brought a large army here. I don't know what kind of sinister plan they have, but the slightest carelessness will lead to a disaster. When that time comes, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering, and countless people will lose their lives. The officials of Mingzhou who don't know the truth, as well as those loyal subordinates of yours, will all be implicated. You have to stop all of this. Qi Guanyin turned to look at her and revealed a strange expression. What should I do? Should I set out right now and head to the main camp outside the city and announce my wife's betrayal and viciousness in front of everyone, then cut her into pieces to resolve this matter? Yinluo shook her head and said, "There's no need for that. Sun Lang did not call you this time, probably because he had considered this point. He didn't want you and your wife to fight each other and cause the matter to become irreversible. I also feel that General Qi still loves your wife. Even if she has hurt you, you can't bear to hurt her. So, General Qi, why don't you relax and trust Sun Lang for the time being? When he comes back, you can make a decision." Qi Guanyin was stunned for a moment and said, "Miss Zhang, you have a good heart and are willing to think for me. But I'm a little tired. I've been manipulated by this world all my life, and then by Tensei Province. Even now, I'm still being manipulated by the Grand Marshal. They all say that it's for my own good, but they don't care what I'm really thinking or what I really want. However, I chose this path myself, so I have no right to blame anyone." Zhang Yinluo seemed to realize something and said in surprise, "You?" The Grand General smiled slightly. "I just want to be like a real man and make a decision for myself. I want to end everything today." He looked at Yinluo and said, "Miss Zhang, it's also fate that you're here. When we met before, you were also heartbroken for me and thinking for me from the bottom of your heart. I owe you a lot. Today, I'm also very grateful that you told me so frankly. You're the person closest to the Grand Marshal, so it's best that I hand these things to you." Yinluo said blankly, "What things?" "A letter, an explanation, a message, a lot of evidence, some arrangements, and some of my experiences over the years." Qi Guanyin stretched out his hands and smiled. "In addition, I'm quite talented. I've lived for many years and have learned a little martial arts. It's a pity to bring these skills to the grave. Ms. Zhang and I hit it off, so if you trust me, why don't I give them all to you? What do you think?" An expert passing on skills to instantly increase one's skills by 60 years was undoubtedly a scene that all martial artists yearned for and were excited about. It was a classic scene in Jianghu legends that would last for a long time. However, Yinluo wasn't surprised or happy that such a big pie had fallen from the sky. She was only shocked. She took a step back and said involuntarily, You actually." Qi Guanyin smiled. "What's wrong?" Zhang Yinluo shouted, "Why?" Chapter 495. Now that he had said this much, he should be able to react no matter what. Qi Guanyin's intentions. He already had the will to die. Yinluo was so shocked that he couldn't say anything. He felt extremely absurd and at a loss. She had heard about Qi Guanyin when she was chatting with Sun Lang. Sun Lang said that he couldn't see through Qi Guanyin. He felt that this great general's actions were abnormal. This famous general seemed to be an amalgamation of contradictions. He was always a loss and was always in a dilemma. This kind of person who couldn't fall into the darkness with a clear conscience and couldn't easily return to the light was the most dangerous and unpredictable variable. He didn't know what Qi Guanyin was thinking, nor did he know what he wanted to do, so he could only think of a way to minimize the variables this guy could cause. But Sun Lang was wrong in the end. Even though he was a famous general and had the caution and resourcefulness that a qualified commander must have, he still misjudged Qi Guanyin's thoughts and actions. This couldn't be blamed on him. After all, he couldn't understand the torment and helplessness of a married man caught between his career, love, and his conscience. He didn't have the relevant experience and couldn't imagine this kind of mentality. In reality, no one had expected Qi Guanyin to be like this. Whether it was the wise and intelligent Miss Zhao, the calm and steady courier, or even the similarly married Hu Shouxin. Even Madame Wang, who had betrayed Qi Guanyin, couldn't have imagined that her husband would make such a choice. She couldn't understand or accept this kind of reckless behavior at all. Inluo asked loudly, "Why? Why?" Qi Guanyin smiled and said softly, "Why not? I don't understand. That's why I'm asking you." The girl felt her mind was in a mess. She was even at a loss. Why did you have to go to this step? Even if something like this happened, you didn't have to choose this path. This is too preposterous. That's right. I've been strictly supervised by my father since I was a child. I swore to bring honor to my ancestors, to surpass my father, and to become a famous general. Qi Guanyin murmured calmly, "Now, as the general of Mingzhou, one of the 9 states generals in the world, I've been granted 2 pieces of the imperial army by His Majesty. My martial arts are so strong that I can be ranked as a great grandmaster. There are countless warriors and generals under my command. I'm in a high position with great power. My personal achievements, my father's expectations, my reputation, and all the honors that a warrior can enjoy." He looked up as if he was asking himself, "But why do I want to die?" The reason is simple. He asked and answered his own question. He looked at Zhang Yinluo and said calmly, "Because death is the only choice I can make in these past years based on my own thoughts. Is this reason enough?" Yinluo said in a daze, "My own choice, that's right." Qi Guanyin's face was expressionless, as if he was telling someone else's story. "Many years ago, when I first joined the army, I did things based on my own will, but I ran into obstacles everywhere. I was ostracized by my peers and suppressed by my superiors. I accomplished nothing. It was like a joke. It's funny to say that I can't achieve what I have today and become the general of Mingzhou. In fact, it's not because of my own abilities. Even if I'm brave and invincible, how can I make contributions if I don't get the chance to kill enemies? How can I be promoted if I can't make contributions? This position of general was actually given to me by Tensei Province. If I didn't join Tensei Province, I would still be the laughable captain who couldn't go to battle for months. How can I have a chance to make contributions?" Qi Guanyin smiled and sighed. "After all, this position of general was given to me by Empress. It's like throwing a bone to a dog. Empress didn't throw the bone to me out of kindness. She raised the dog because she expected the dog to bite her enemies." A hint of pain flashed in his eyes as he continued. "As for my wife, she's been a member of the Heavenly Policy Palace for a long time. I knew about a long time ago. Even when she married me, she was probably following orders. The Empress weaved a net, and my wife threw it out to trap me. She slowly tightened the net, step by step. Whether I joined Tensei Province or was promoted to general, I became a dog. I offered my loyalty to Tensei Province and did things I didn't want to do at all. I wanted to be an indomitable man. I wanted to be like Hu Shouxin, standing upright and upright all the time. But I couldn't do it. I was just a dog. A dog has to lower its head and sneak glances at its master's face." He sighed and looked at Zhang Yinluo. He said softly, "As for what happened recently, I was badly battered. Sun Lang reached out to help me when I was in danger. I believed that he had good intentions, and I knew that he was thinking for me. But in fact, he still wanted to get something from me, so he didn't consider my feelings. He wanted me to continue being the general of Mingzhou. He wanted to arouse the hatred and anger in my heart, because he had the same anger. He wanted me to make an enemy, because that was also his enemy. He wanted me to follow him to take revenge on Tensei Province, on Empress, and even on the Emperor, but he didn't consider whether I wanted to do it or not." Yinluo heard this and sighed. He shook his head and said, "It might be a little inappropriate to say it out loud, but in this world, there is no such thing as giving for no reason. He didn't need your strength, so he asked for it openly and worked hard to solve your problems. You will only reap what you sow. Yes, that is indeed the case. So I'm very grateful for his kindness." Qi Guanyin nodded at Yinluo. "The marshal didn't betray me, and I won't betray the marshal. But this is not what I want." Yinluo said softly, "I understand your pain, but this doesn't mean that you have to choose death. If you are tired, you can choose to live in seclusion. You can bid farewell to the past and start a new life. This world is very big. There's always a chance to start over. Death can't be restarted. She said solemnly, I will help you persuade Sun Lang to let you go. Although he is a willful person who likes to do things on his own and seems unreasonable, he is actually very, very good. Even if he complains a little, he will still agree to your request in the end. Miss Zhang, thank you for your kindness, but there is no other way. Qi Guanyin smiled. Only my death can solve all the problems today. Besides, I'm tired. This is enough. There's nothing bad about announcing the end of a life like this. Without waiting for Zhang Yinluo to persuade him, he returned to the room. When he came out again, he was holding a neatly stacked stack of papers. His expression was somewhat relieved, as if he was about to be released. He placed the stack of letters on the ground and picked up the topmost ones. His voice was terrifyingly calm. The Marshal has never betrayed me, and I have never betrayed the Marshal. He used his status to condescend to favor me. With such an encounter, I should have offered my loyalty. Unfortunately, fate makes fools of people. We are not fated to be together. Although I'm not talented, I am not without conscience. The most important thing is to clear the Marshal of his suspicion. He waved the letters in his hand. These letters are for Uncle Chong and the generals under my command. They are all reliable people. I have explained the whole sequence of events in the letters and ordered them to listen to the orders of the messenger. After I die, you must immediately go to the army camp outside the city and pass these letters to them. After they read it, they will understand. After he finished speaking, he picked up another letter. There was a slight smile on his face. After delivering these letters and obtaining their trust, Ms. Zhang, read this long letter in front of everyone. Explain the sequence of events clearly and resolve the crisis of the enemy at the city gates. This was clearly a will and last words, but there was no fear or hesitation on the face of the person involved. Instead, it was filled with peace and relief. There was even a trace of inexplicable pleasure. Yinluo could not help but shiver. Qi Guanyin was still explaining methodically. After my death, the position of Mingzhou's great general will be empty. This is the second difficult matter, but I have made arrangements. General Hu Shouxin is ambitious, loyal, and knowledgeable in military affairs. I admire and envy him greatly. I have written a memorial to ask the court to allow Brother Hu to take over the position of Mingzhou's great general. This cannot be better. Based on the current situation, the court can only agree. This will depend on the game between the Marshal and His Majesty. He picked up a stack of papers and smiled. General Hu is upright and fair in handling matters. He has always been admired by his comrades in the army. With his abilities, it will not be difficult for him to unify Mingzhou's military affairs. Sooner or later, he will convince everyone wholeheartedly. Here is a summary of the situation of the various armies in Mingzhou. It should be able to help General Hu. As for these, consider them my apologies. After all, I have tricked the Marshal, and he must be very unhappy. These are things that he is interested in. After all, his goal is to unify the forces of Mingzhou. With these, even without me, the Marshal should be able to do a good job with his abilities. He categorized the items and introduced them one by one. As for these, there are also some books in the general's residence. These are all my experiences over the years. Whether it is martial arts or the art of war, they're all here. If Ms. Zhang is interested, you can read them when you have time. They will be useful. Also, I will give all my skills to you. It will be more or less beneficial. If he finds out that you have received these benefits, the Marshal will probably not be too angry. Also, there are 2 pieces of my imperial army, some of the things under my name. With these things, you can concentrate on learning for a few years and master them. In the future, you might even be able to become the great general of Mingzhou. After all, General Zhao Yunlong is a ready-made example. At this point, Qi Guanyin couldn't help but laugh. If I pass the position of Grand General to Ms. Zhang, I'm afraid the Marshal will be even happier. But that's impossible. It's too childish. No one will be convinced. What Qi Guanyin handed over was enough to make most people in this world go crazy. The supreme internal strength of a great grandmaster. the essence of the great general of Mingzhou's martial arts and art of war, the great favor of being able to befriend the generals of Mingzhou, and the incomparably precious imperial army. Even if a useless person obtained these things, they would instantly become a dragon among men and be high above everyone else. However, Yinluo was not happy at all. Instead, she was very confused. She looked at Qi Guanyin and seemed to realize something. However, the truth was hidden in a hazy fog that she had not been able to push aside. She murmured, "I don't want to be the great general of Mingzhou." Qi Guanyin only smiled and put the letter in his hand to the side. Finally, there were only a few pages left of this thick stack of paper. He stroked the paper with a strange expression. There was sorrow, reluctance, resentment, and even a faint pleasure. Wait a minute. A flash of inspiration flashed through her mind and broke through the dark fog. Yinluo suddenly realized what the strange feeling that had been troubling her was. The pleasure on Qi Guanyin's face. He clearly wanted to end his life. He clearly was disheartened. He clearly wanted to do things according to his heart. Why did he feel pleasure, and excitement? She remembered the day she came to see Qi Guanyin with Sun Lang and the discussion before they left. About Qi Guanyin's abnormal behavior. What kind of action would a person take after being deeply hurt by a person they loved deeply? She thought of the thoughts in her heart at that time. Take me, for example. If you hurt me badly and break my heart, I definitely won't kill you. I'll let you live and then think of a way to make you miss me every day. You'll think of me for the rest of your life. You'll regret it, but you'll never be able to see me. Only then will I be able to vent my anger. For a moment, Yinluo's hands and feet were ice cold. Qi Guanyin seemed to have made up his mind. He folded the last letter and said with a smile, "Please give this to my wife. This is the last thing I will say to her. Please don't open it." Yinluo didn't reply. Instead, he stared at him. After a moment, he said softly, "I haven't asked you yet. In that long letter of yours, how did you intend to explain this matter to the army and the officials outside the city, as well as the news of your death?" Qi Guanyin was stunned for a moment. He smiled with a bit of embarrassment. "If you want to see it, you can see it yourself. It's a bit embarrassing and not something to brag about. Perhaps this action is a bit cowardly and will even be sneered at by the marshal. But this is what I want to do." A trace of gentleness flashed in his eyes. He said softly, "I have decided to forgive her." Zhang Yinluo could not hold it in anymore. She bent down and took out the long letter that she wanted to read and explain to everyone. She opened it and read it as fast as she could. The letter was flipped open by her. She read 10 lines at a glance. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was throbbing. She felt indescribably upset. She took a deep breath and looked at the Mingzhou general in front of her. She said slowly, "What is this?" Qi Guanyin said softly, "The best way to solve the problem is to give an explanation to Tensei province, to give my wife an explanation, to resolve the crisis, to stop the war, to clear the marshal's suspicion, to pave the way for him to control Mingzhou, and to give me the final relief." Yinluo shook her head. "That's not what I'm asking. Why did you do this? Are you referring to my wife's matter? You'll understand after you marry the marshal." Qi Guanyin said softly, "I knew her identity long ago. I knew she was a spy from Tensei province, but I still loved her. She was my wife. Even if she hurt me, even if she was disloyal, I loved her. It had nothing to do with all these. This is something I've realized recently. I really didn't want to hurt her." Yinluo was stupefied for a while. Then, she suddenly laughed. Qi Guanyin was surprised. "What are you laughing at?" The girl's right hand loosened, and the long letter fell to the ground. She said slowly, "You're indeed a famous general. The story in this letter is the script and speech you've written long ago, right? Just as you said, it solved all the problems perfectly. Everyone got what they wanted, except for one person." The general was stunned. He asked with interest, "Who is it?" "Your wife," Yinluo said slowly. "Wang Ying." Qi Guanyin sighed. "Are you referring to the separation of life and death between us?" "Yes, even though I love her, we can't go back to how we were before. Moreover, if I don't die, she won't be able to complete her mission. Luo said calmly. That's why you made up such a story in the long letter. You hid your wife's identity as a spy from Tensei Province. You claimed that you were obsessed with the Tensei Province in your early years and poured all the dirty water on the Tensei Province. You also blamed the Tensei Province for your death. They forced you to kill your loyal subjects and forced you to do all kinds of things against your will. You also made up a reasonable reason for your suicide. This is undoubtedly a heavy blow to the Tensei Province. After all, it was at the cost of your death. Then, you took advantage of the situation to clear your wife's name. Her identity changed from a spy from Tensei Province to the widow of General Qi, who committed suicide. She will definitely be rewarded and taken care of by the imperial court. Moreover, her personal safety will be guaranteed. After all, the Tensei Province will definitely not make things difficult for an insignificant chess piece at this time to avoid suspicion. Qi Guanyin sighed. This is the last thing I can do for her. I hope she can escape the shadow of Tensei Province and live a good life. Luo stared at him and sneered. Live a good life? General Qi nodded. Yes. Even if she did such a thing, I still hope she can live a good life. After all, I love her. Luo couldn't hold it in anymore. He said angrily, Don't say such things again. You don't love her. You clearly hate her to the bone. How is this the last thing you can do? This is clearly the most painful revenge. Qi Guanyin's expression changed slightly. What? The girl said sternly. Isn't it? Is there a crueler revenge than this? You knew your wife's identity and mission from the beginning, but you tolerated her and pretended not to know. Even if your wife cruelly betrayed you and hurt you, even if she wanted to kill you, you still made such a great sacrifice without saying anything. You used your life as the price to complete your wife's mission and help her escape the shackles and claws of Tensei Province. As a man, is there a greater sacrifice than this? Her tone softened a little, and she said sadly, Similarly, your wife's heart must be in pain when she finally realizes all this. She will be sad, she will cry, she will feel despair, she will regret, she will be in pain. She will want to say sorry to you, but she will never be able to see you again because you have already used your life as the price to give her the cruelest revenge. She will only think of you in this lifetime. In that letter you wrote to her, you must have told her to live a good life. She doesn't even dare to die. She wants to continue living and thinking of you. Then she will regret, cry, and despair. She looked at the silent General Qi and said softly, How much do you hate her? General Qi was silent for a moment and said indifferently, Are you pitying her? No, she did such a thing. She hurt and betrayed you. It's understandable that you want to take revenge. I have no reason to blame you. Luo was silent for a moment and said softly, But please don't use this as a pretense of love. The love of my heart is not like this. Also, General Qi, I think it's a pity to sacrifice your life for this kind of reason, for this kind of revenge. Qi Guanyin suddenly laughed. He laughed so hard that tears flowed out of his eyes. Or rather, he was crying. He was laughing through gritted teeth. He was laughing and crying. Is that so? He asked. Do I really hate her? How can I not hate her? She's outside the city right now. What do you think she is doing? Chapter 496. The sun was high in the sky and the wind was howling. Sun Lang and the other two left the city and headed north. They were soon discovered by the scouts of the Ming Province Army. After traveling about 7 or 8 li, they ran head-on into the welcoming party led by Wang Rulong. Wang Rulong was Qi Guanyin's favorite general and one of the top figures in Ming Province's military. Hu Shouxin was a retired general of Heaven's origin, and Lu Shouyin was the prefecture overseer. They were all reputable figures in society. Although they didn't have a deep relationship due to various reasons, they were still acquaintances. It's one thing to be close friends, but what's with nodding at each other? In short, everyone could be considered acquaintances. After exchanging greetings, there's some awkwardness. After all, the relationship and position of both sides were very delicate after such an incident. The little invisible Sun Lang was naturally ignored. Wang Rulong invited everyone to go with him. The cavalry under his command silently dispersed and gathered behind the three of them. They were all well-trained elite soldiers who followed the rules and discipline. Although they looked at the three of them with hostility, they did not say anything unfriendly. Hu Shouxin sighed softly. Wang Rulong pulled back the reins and walked side by side with old Hu. After a moment of silence, he suddenly asked, "General Hu, why are you sighing? We're all soldiers of the Empire and officials of the same court. You're part of the Tianyuan War, and I'm part of it too. We've all heard of your great name and deeds. The great general also admires you very much. He often sighs and says that he's not fated to be friends with you. I know that General Hu is an indomitable man. He just needs a word from you." Hu Shouxin lowered his eyes and said calmly, "The general is very safe right now. I can only tell you this. This matter is of great importance and extremely complicated. Let's wait for Qi Guanyin to explain it to you in person." Wang Rulong hesitated for a moment and seemed to want to say something. But in the end, he sighed and shook his head dispiritedly. "A lowly general is content to hear this. I believe that brother who will keep his word. Please don't let me down." Hu Shouxin nodded lightly. Having said this much, it was enough to stop at a certain point. At present, everyone had their own misgivings, and some things could not be said aloud. He was like this, and so was Wang Rulong. "Since that's the case, the three of you should head to the main camp for a chat." Wang Rulong said indifferently, "The army is here, and so are many officials in Mingzhou. They all need an explanation, and I hope, brother, who can get through this. After all, we admire General Hu a lot, and we really don't want to fight you." Hu Shouxin smiled. "I've been in the military for half my life. The reason why I'm able to achieve what I have today is all because of the Sky Demon. I don't want to use my blade against humans, let alone my fellow soldiers. I'm the same as you guys." Wang Rulong and Hu Shouxin looked at each other and smiled. Sun Lang looked on coldly from the sidelines. He snickered in his heart and acted as if nothing had happened. Wang Rulong chatted with Lu Shoyin for a while more. He was very humble and did not give off the feeling of being overbearing. After all, this General Wang was not stupid. The arrival of an army in Ming province was equivalent to a mutiny. To a large extent, how this matter would be determined by the imperial court depended on how the prefecture overseer wrote his memorial. Naturally, the precondition was that the Grand General returned safely and this matter could be resolved peacefully. After the small talk, the group spurred their horses on and sped toward the camp. After traveling for some time, they encountered several groups of mounted scouts along the way. Then they saw the magnificent camp. Hu Shouxin was an expert in the army. With just a few glances, he could roughly judge the size of the army and their military discipline. As expected, they were Qi Guanyin's men. The camp was well set up as well. He praised inwardly. At this moment, he heard Sun Lang exclaim in surprise. Wang Rulong heard the exclamation as well. He turned to look at Sun Lang. He did not know Sun Lang's background. The Wang family was not kind enough to tell him that this was a monster who could easily withstand Qi Guanyin's raging halberd strike. He thought Sun Lang was Lu Zhou's attendant, servant, or bodyguard. However, he still asked politely, "What's wrong?" Sun Lang flashed a flawless smile. He blushed and said, "I'm young and inexperienced. This is my first time seeing such a magnificent camp." I was shocked and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Please excuse me." Wang Rulong smiled and said, "It's just a small trick, not worth mentioning. It's all thanks to the Grand General's guidance. I see that your hands are steady, your eyes are calm, your horsemanship is very good, and your martial arts must be very good. Young people like you should try your luck and join the army to serve the country. You should immediately get a scholarly title, and in the future, when you perform meritorious deeds, you will be able to become a lieutenant general." Sun Lang exclaimed in surprise. "Really? Can someone like me also be a general?" Wang Rulong smiled and said, "Young man, don't belittle yourself. One side was ignorant, the other side was shameless. One side was sincere, the other side harbored ill intentions." These two fellows actually started chatting happily. Old Hu and Lu Zhou looked at each other. For a moment, Their expressions were strange, and their emotions were complicated. Sun Lang always liked to do things that were annoying in the most boring of places, and he even felt happy about it. It was difficult for them to understand his train of thought. Hu Shouxin listened for a moment and could not bear to listen anymore. He interrupted. "Let's get down to business." Wang Rulong reacted as well. He smiled apologetically at old Hu. Then he said to Sun Lang, "After this is over, if you're interested, you can look for me at the inner city's main camp. Just tell them my name." General Wang was a warm-hearted man. He asked again, "Brother, do you know how to get to the inner city's main camp?" "Yes, I do," Sun Lang said with a smile. "Not only do I know, but I've also left a secret passage on your inner city wall. You didn't notice it, right?" Ha ha ha. After they finished chatting, they galloped toward the camp's entrance. On the way, Hu Shouxin's lips moved slightly as he sent a secret voice transmission to Sun Lang. "What were you thinking just now? Don't tell me you were just teasing General Wang. Is it interesting?" A smile appeared on Sun Lang's face as he replied with a secret voice transmission. "Of course it's interesting. Old Hu, didn't you notice? The design of this camp is very particular." Old Hu asked curiously, "What's so particular about it? Why can't I see it?" Sun Lang said, "Well, formation. Bah, I mean the design of this camp seems to emphasize on air defense and defense. Look, the distribution of the watchtowers, arrow towers, and shooting platforms, the layout of the camp, and even the width of the camp roads, the number of rapid response passages, all of these are used to monitor and defend against enemies from the sky. Among the generals of the empire, only Qi Guanyan's military philosophy is the most advanced. Therefore, only the generals under his command have this awareness and ability." Hu Shouxin asked. "Enemies from the sky?" Sun Lang smiled disdainfully. "It must be Courier and Long Wanda. Wang, this bitch is still stupid. Does she think that we'll attack and leave on a blazing angel? Do you think this is a special force? You're too naive. What blazing angel? I can go out the same way I came in." Realization dawned on old Hu. Then he sneered and said, "This woman is so wary of us. As expected, she's up to no good. I wonder what kind of formation is waiting for us later." Sun Lang laughed heartily. "If I were Wang, I'd secretly bury hundreds of thousands of kilograms of explosives in the meeting hall. When the time comes, I'll ask her blazing angel companion to bring her to a higher altitude at lightning speed. Then I'll detonate this big mushroom. At that time, the upper class of Ming province, from civil and military officials to famous people, will all die. If we're lucky, we'll even get the heads of you and Lu Zhou. I'm afraid it'll be an earth-shattering event. The situation will be chaotic, and it'll be more explosive than Qi Guanyan's death." Hu Shouxin exclaimed in shock. F***, that a vicious idea, and it seems to be effective. Sun Lang said, "That's right. After eating this big mushroom, I reckon Ming province won't be able to recover for a long time. Even if Ming province falls into my hands, it'll be useless for a few years. This is in line with the interests of Tensei province and the emperor." Wonderful. The more old Hu thought about it, the more shocked he became. A drop of cold sweat slid down the side of his face. "Hey, that woman isn't really going to do that, is she?" Sun Lang said indifferently. "I don't know. However, there are no explosives underground. Even if there are, they won't be able to detonate it." Hu Shouxin sighed in relief. "That's good. However, the next moment, Sun Lang pondered and said, "Speaking of which, this seems like a good idea. If these people are all dead, it means that the noble families in Ming province will lose their patriarchs, and there will be a lot of vacancies. These important positions that symbolize power and wealth will be empty, and there will definitely be a lot of people who will break their heads trying to squeeze in. At this time, we can examine the strong competitors for these positions and find someone with potential to support. At the same time, we can also let Ms. Zhao control their minds and help them get what they want." He turned to look at Hu Shouxin and said seriously, "In this way, the ruling class of the entire Ming province will naturally undergo a major change. They will become unprecedentedly honest and efficient, and they will unite around us. By the way, the deaths of those officials and gentry could be blamed on the Tensei province. After all, the Wang family is indeed from Tensei province, and they didn't wrongly accuse her, Hu Shoshin said angrily. That's enough. He was so agitated that he forgot to use secret voice sending and shouted directly. In an instant, he attracted everyone's attention. Old Hu glared fiercely at Sun Lang, then smiled awkwardly and politely at Wang Rulong. It's fine. General Wang looked suspicious, but they were already close to the gate of the camp. The guard were already standing behind the barricade with spears in their hands, according to military regulations. They shouted, "Stop!" Everyone reined in their horses and gradually came to a stop. Wang Rulong rode on his horse and looked at the guards. He said loudly, "I'm General Wang Rulong, and I'm here to welcome the distinguished guests." "It's General Wang. There's no mistake." The guard shouted, "Let them pass." The cavalrymen under Wang Rulong's command dismounted and waited by the road. There were many rules in the camp, and they were not qualified to ride horses in the camp. They could only lead their horses and walk to the barracks to be dismissed. General Wang's rank was high enough, and Sun Lang and the other two had special identities, so they did not need to dismount. Under the watchful, curious, and hostile gazes of the guards, the four of them rode into the camp. Wang Rulong turned his head and said, "Please forgive me. Originally, the three of you could have visited Madame first, but after such a thing happened, Madame felt that there was nothing to say to you in private. If there's something to say, you should say it clearly in front of everyone. So, she ordered me to bring you directly to the military field that has been set up. She and the officials of Mingzhou will be waiting there." The three of them sneered in their hearts. Of course, Madame Wang did not dare to meet them in private. Even if she had 500 executioners lying in ambush, it would be useless in front of Sun Lang. This kind of thing was expected. Hu Shoshin smiled and said, "It's fine. We also have nothing to say to Madame Wang. Let's talk openly." Wang Rulong seemed to have understood the meaning behind Old Hu's words. He frowned and asked, "What do you mean, Brother Hu?" Old Hu shook his head and said with a smile, "If I tell you now, you won't believe me and will blame me for speaking without thinking. So, it's better to wait until the truth comes out and let General Qi explain it to you personally." Wang Rulong was shocked. He gave Shoshin a deep look and said nothing. The four of them walked through the wide path of the camp. The soldiers along the way made way for them. Based on the soldiers' eyes, it was clear that they were aware of the trio's identity. This meant that the whole camp would soon know that the culprits who imprisoned the great general had delivered themselves to their doorstep. The stairs made Old Hu and Lu Zhou feel gloomy. They did not know if they should blame Sun Lang or Madame Wang for this situation. Only Sun Lang was thick-skinned. He did not care about the stairs at all. He looked around as though he was checking out the layout of the camp and the division of the soldiers. After all, he would have to run after showing off in a while. He had to check out the situation beforehand. Hu Shoshin did not have such a strong mental fortitude. After all, he was not Sun Lang. He was not that reckless. Running away after showing off was too much for him. When he thought about Sun Lang's plan, he felt a little weak. Perhaps the three of them would soon have to face the wrath of the entire camp. With that thought in mind, he sent a secret voice transmission to Lu Zhou. "Hey, when are we making our move?" Sun Lang replied, "That depends on the situation. Let's see what Madame Wang can say first. Don't worry. Even if she has thousands of vicious schemes, we have Qi Guanyin in our hands. Everything is stable. As long as Qi Guanyin shows up, these Qiuba will keep quiet no matter how fierce they make a fuss. The premise is that after we capture Madame Wang, we have to rush back to Ming province under their furious pursuit and drag Qi Guanyin out. What's the big deal with this?" Sun Lang said disdainfully, "Back then, we even let go of the sky demon's kite. It was much more powerful than this. That's different. We can kill the sky demon at will, but we can't kill this one. So troublesome." Sun Lang said impatiently, "When the time comes, I'll protect Lu Shouyin while you lead Madame Wang. The main thing is to guard against sneak attacks. You take the other side and put Madame Wang behind you as a shield, Why do I feel like I'm becoming more and more like a bad guy after I got on your pirate ship? Don't worry. This is only the worst-case scenario. I'll see if I can use my powerful charisma and persuasive skills to bring Madame Wong back to Ming Province peacefully. Sun Lang grinned at Old Hu. Just wait and see. For some reason, Old Hu suddenly had a bad feeling. At that moment, he heard Wang Rulong say, "We're here." A drill ground had been specially set up in the camp. It was located at the northwest side of the camp and occupied a vast area. Many awnings had been set up, and most of them were filled with people. Everyone's style was completely different from the people outside. One could tell at a glance that they were successful people. Ming Province's officials and gentry were here. The people gathered here were like a drop in the ocean compared to the large population of Ming Province. However, they controlled most of Ming Province's wealth, social resources, land, and power. They even had the power to kill most of the ordinary people. Madame Wong sat in the largest awning and waited for the three of them to arrive. "Are you ready?" Sun Lang said calmly. "Help these honest people vent their anger. Let's go." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.